Okay, I'm calling this regular meeting of the Stuart City Commission to order for the 28th of July, 2025. For those of you who got here at 5:30, thank you for your patience. Sometimes the wheels of government grind slowly. Roll call, please.
Mayor Rich,
Here.
Vice Mayor Collins.
Here.
Commissioner Clark,
Here.
Commissioner Giobi.
Here.
Commissioner Reed.
Okay, and our invocation will be provided this evening by Chaplain Hank Breitenkamp of the Humanists of the Treasure Coast. And after, will you please lead us in the Pledge of Allegiance?
Sure.
Please stand.
Friends, what a wonderful opportunity for all of us in this chamber and in the city as a whole to live, work, make friends, learn, recreate, worship as we choose or not, enjoy fine dining, raise a family, or just have fun in the true shining diamond of the Treasure Coast, the city of Stuart. For this, we are most thankful every day. It's been said that everything in life costs. We pay for everything in mental, physical, or spiritual coin. The mechanics of running a city like Stuart takes the very real expenditure of work and the active participation of all stakeholders, citizens, elected officials, city staff, and coordination via excellent communications with other agencies of government and the business sector. As we see all around us in the city today, this work is getting done very well. For this, we are most thankful every day. Each one of us has the ability and the responsibility to make good things happen in our lives, our community, and the world. The ways we do this are many and varied, but most of all, kindness and respect top the list. For this, we are thankful every day. So as we begin the proclamations, deliberations, and resolutions of this meeting, we as the citizens seek the honorable members of the commission before us that they be inspired by wisdom and justice to do all the right things for all the right reasons, namely the enhancement of our natural environment, our strong neighborhoods, our highways and byways, our business community, our recreational facilities, and our police and life safety departments, to name a few. For this, we are most thankful every day. Finally, we remember the needy among us, in body or spirit. May we be true instruments of peace in providing them the assistance they need with a hand up of encouragement or physical resources. Friends, we say all these things in the name of everything that is holy, good, honorable, and true. Amen. Amen. I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
Thank you, sir. I would like to thank Commissioner Giobi for making the effort to be here. She recently had an operation, and that's, so would you like to make some comments this evening?
I do have a comment to make.
Okay.
Thank you. And I want to thank all of those who did send good wishes for my knee operation. I appreciate it. Thank you. After the passing and signing of legislation SB 180, which on its surface appears to be an emergency bill, and I will note that there's good intent in this bill, but certain language was added at the very end and sent to the legislation for approval. I had an interesting conversation with Commissioner Howington from Deltona, Florida. She and her commissioners, along with other municipalities and counties throughout the state of Florida, have encountered unintended consequences from this legislation. The broad scope of the language in the SB 180 is now being used to challenge local ordinances that have no connection to emergencies. A statewide coalition is now forming to fight this overreach, led by Attorney Jamie Cowell of Weiss, Sirota, Helfman, Cole, and Bierman in Fort Lauderdale. I encourage our city to discuss the resolution with Attorney Cole. I have attached the email I received from Commissioner Howington and a copy of the resolution for the record. It is my understanding that Attorney Cole sent an email with the details to our attorney last week and all of the attorneys throughout the state of Florida in all of the municipalities and communities. Thank you.
Thank you. Commissioner Clark.
Thank you. This weekend, I participated in the Treasure Coast Waterways cleanup at the Shepherd's Park. We've done some improvement at Shepherd's Park in the past few years, and those are all literally coming into bloom, and the park is looking very good. I must say thanks to, I'm going to call her Ann Hawkins. I know she coordinated the city, but there are other places and other people who did things, I think, around other waterways in Martin County. But just the sheer work that she did, and all the staff members that came out from city staff, as well as those from members of the public. And I just want to say that we just did a lease with the Hellgate Dragons for the rowing company, group that's there, that's leasing a portion and has access to the waterways of the park. And I think that's a good, positive thing for the city of Stuart. And I was glad to see them participate in that particular event. And I think Ann will be coming to us with some numbers, but I'm hoping that as time goes on, we'll be seeing less and less debris and other things coming out of our pickups when we do these cleanups, because people are being more responsible and not throwing so much along the waterways. But we did have quite a bit, and I don't have the numbers as to how many pounds or what types of things were found at our particular location, but I think Ann is going to get some ideas of what happened in the entire cleanup and come back to us another day. But it was a good event, and we had, I think a lot of our commissioners were there and our city manager, and it really showed our utilities director and public works director and staff. I even met a staff member who I didn't know was in our public works department. So it was a good event, and I'm really proud of what the city did to spearhead and work on our portion for that. I won't be here for the next few days, but I know that there's something coming up on July 31st for a joint city-county school board meeting. So is that this Friday or something, or this Thursday morning?
I believe.
At 9 o'clock at the Moorgate Library. And so those in the public or others who can attend, please attend. I know today we had a meeting at 4 p.m. and we had the Honorable Krista Lee Roberts from the Martin County School Board, who stayed with us for about an hour and a half to 2 hours. And she had brought in a paper from the Florida Department of Education releasing the school district grades and achievement for 24-25, and it says that Martin County has achieved an A rating as one of 28 A-rated school districts in Florida, and it gives two of our schools, Jensen Beach High School, Martin County High School, as well as Stuart Middle School, and then we have in the elementary area, Felix Williams and J.D. Parker as schools. Some schools have shown improvement or need changes, but all the elementary schools that are listed and that were part of that listing is here, and sure that people can go to the Martin County schools.org and see how the improvements are. Ms. Roberts didn't leave any particular words of what she wanted to say, but I know she definitely wanted to have our commission as well as the public know more about how this A-rated school happens and how it helps for people who are in our community. When we run for our offices, one of the things we tend to promise to people is that, they're living in a great area, they can live, work, and play and send their kids to safe schools and to good quality schools. So this is very good news to have from a member of our school board and to have our school district promulgate this type of information. And I'm very proud of that. We had I wouldn't say it was a testy meeting earlier on, but it was important to go through all the gory details and figure things out and figure out where we are. But I must give commendations to our city manager, to Ms. Pinal Gandhi-Savdas, and to all of our staff. I mean, our staff really works hard, has to listen, has to follow through. They are the tools when the commission makes policies that works through things. And I just want to tell our staff at the city of Stuart, that we're just so proud of them. We're proud of everybody, police, fire, recreation, utilities, all of our departments, public works, and it's just, it's just so important. We're going to be seeing more of Jolie because we're going to have 3 more budget meetings, Mike?
Well, we, in the past, have had 2, but we can have 3 if necessary. Right now, currently, we have a budget meeting scheduled for August 11th. You'll receive a full presentation of the budget, at which time we'll schedule another one. If we, at the second budget meeting, come to a consensus and the commission adopts a budget, we won't need a 3rd budget meeting, but if there's a need for it, we'll address it then.
Thank you. But yeah, so we always think of, the budget and how important that type of presentation is at this time. But I just really, everybody working together just makes it so important. And when we see things, we saw that our neighbor city had some issues, and just to the north of us, and we just need to be, I am so proud of, can I have the name of our minister who spoke today? What's his name?
Mr. Brighton
Cam?
Cam.
Mr. Brighton Cam, and be thankful. Be thankful. That is so important. And we just need to watch our ways, watch ourselves, and know that we just there but for the grace of God. So we just need to be thankful, and it's so important. Thank you so much. Thank you for your words today.
Thank you. Mr. Vice Mayor.
Yes, so I appreciate the words from Commissioner Giobbe, and we don't get to talk, So I had similar thoughts with regard to the resolution that came through on July 22nd from Weiss and Sirota regarding joining the lawsuit to fight SB 180. I'd like to publicly recognize also Dory Howington from City of Deltona, who has had a lot of courage to step up and stand up against the state. And then Orange County Commissioners, Christine Moore, Myra Uribe, Nicole Wilson, Kelly Simrad, their majority. In recent clips, just to echo some of their sentiments, they said things like, we've got to get allies in other municipalities. If we agree to repeal anything, they're just going to know that they bullied us, and next year it will be even worse. We should not take a single half step back. This is when we stand up and we fight and we challenge the state. I really appreciated hearing that from another municipality, and God willing, this commission will join in and be an ally with their municipality in Deltona. They had the courage to stand up against state overreach that threatens a quality of life, conservation, and home rule in almost every county in the city of Florida. Voters within the city of Stuart and Martin County over the last 2 election cycles were clear. In the city, they said, stop the land use changes, stop approving these maximum height, high-density apartment boxes, and stop overdeveloping and creating more traffic. 4 out of these 5 seats, and then 2 more in the county, have turned over to candidates who campaigned on slower growth. Residents did their part, They were good Americans, right? They did their research, and they circled the bubbles that best reflected their values. It is clear what voters wanted. It is clear what the will of the people is. And how did Tallahassee respond? With a bill that retroactively erases the ability of voters to finally, for the first time in a long time, get what they voted for. It is clear that our residents have no one representing them in Tallahassee. If there is anyone left that will fight for the residents of the city of Stuart and Martin County, it will begin with this commission, and hopefully the county will follow as well. In the defense of our legislators, which it's easy to beat up on them, in talking to Attorney Jamie Cole from Weiss and Sirota, in his conversations with multiple legislators, they didn't even realize what they were voting for because many of these problematic components were put in at the very last minute. So they did not even really have a chance to understand what they were voting for. I personally do not think it is enough to just stand by and watch this lawsuit unfold. And though we would benefit from it, assuming that a judge did, uphold an injunction against SB 180, if Rick Hartman and Tom Campenny are accurate in their assessment that this was very much targeted at Martin County and really the city of Stuart, I think it is up to us to also join that suit since it was targeted at us, and join alongside Deltona and Orange County and hopefully others. So I would like to see, to Commissioner Giobbe, your point, that we have a D&D on this as soon as humanly possible.
That would be August 11th.
If there is political will tonight to do so, and if not, maybe wait to discuss even having a D&D next meeting. But I would appreciate, I know how you feel, Commissioner Giobbe, but from my other two commissioners, if there's any thoughts, I'm sure there'll be fear-mongering around lawsuits and such, and maybe it's reasonable fear-mongering, but I hope, I said it at the last meeting after some comments, that even though we may agree on pro-growth or slow growth or, the number of parking spaces or units per acre, that we are all on the same page when it comes to defending home rule and our ability to best advocate for the people who put us in these seats. So those are my comments, and hopefully I can get some feedback from the rest of you if you'd be open to a D&D on this.
Okay, I have no, I just have a brief comment, and I was able to rearrange my schedule, and I was able to participate in the waterway cleanup, which is a hot but fun event. And I just, as I was cleaning up, I overheard Commissioner Clark comment, the mayor is complaining that the park is too clean. There's not enough litter. So I do want to commend our public works staff. I was over at Smith Turner Park. That is a fabulous park, and it was spotless. I was very happy to see that, and thank you to Milton and all your staff for doing such a terrific job. That concludes my remarks. Mr. City Manager, do you have some?
I do. I too wanted to thank Ann Hawkins and all of the other employees at the city that dedicated their time, put the cleanup together, and also attended and participated. I also wanted to thank the rowing club for providing lunch for everybody. They had a cookout, and they were giving free tours or rides in the 12-seater rowing boats. I didn't take them up on it because I was already too sunburnt, but other people did and enjoyed it. And they're a great addition. They have already gone at the Duffy's building, and they went to Home Depot and got Home Depot to donate mulch and landscaping, and they had already put in landscaping and mulch around the building, and they also took the deck that was in the back of the building that was very dilapidated, and they had a couple carpenters that worked, that are members of their club. They flipped all the boards on the deck, pressure cleaned them all, and then stained and sealed them all, so it looks almost brand new. They had other plans. They want to work together with the city on future projects, which is a great addition, and it's nice, and it's a great group of people. I also wanted to mention that we do have a joint meeting this week by state mandate, which is the concurrency meeting where the school board and the county and the municipalities meet. This week should be interesting because the city will not have quorum at the meeting, but that's okay because it's not really a voting type meeting anyway. It's more of a presentation meeting. Then the other thing I wanted to mention was the budget. As Commissioner Clark mentioned, we do have a budget meeting scheduled before the August 11th regularly scheduled City Commission meeting, and I'll add to that meeting a D&D and have the city attorney present a discussion regarding the lawsuit and the attorney. I know that he spoke to the attorney from that firm last Thursday or Friday, so I'm sure he has some information on it. When we last met, there was a discussion about the need for the finance director to file a form with the property appraiser and tax collector called I think it's a DR 420, and that is where the city commission gives him a direction of a not to exceed number for the millage rate. We need that before August 4th, so I'm asking for a motion today for the commission to give me a not to exceed. It would be staff's recommendation to maintain the not to exceed at the same tax rate that we had as last year of 5 mils. Obviously, the not to exceed rate is not the tax rate. The commission, after hearing the budget presentations, has the right to adopt any millage rate they want, but they cannot go over the not to exceed rate. And obviously, this would not be an increase, but would be the same exact rate as last year.
You need that by?
A second.
Today. I need it by August 4th. I mean, we can call a special meeting between now and August 4th if you want to come back. But one of the discussions we had last time was that the mayor was going to be gone starting tomorrow. And then also Commissioner Clark was going to be gone at some point. And I wasn't sure when Commissioner Reed was coming back, but I thought it wasn't until after August 4th, but he may be before August 4th. But I know that he's not going to be at the joint meeting at the end of the week. So the overhaul was there. So whatever the discretion of the board is, I'd be looking for a motion on that. And normally, it's not a resolution. It would just be, your guys would be giving me a motion one way or the other. If there is no motion, then what happens is the last adopted rate would be the not to exceed rate, which is 5. So silence would lead to it being 5 unless somebody motions for something less.
I think we're pretty
I mean, the direction of
divided. I
what,
was 475 was my number. I don't know that.
Well, if you want to have a discussion, we'll have it in the context of a motion, so not just he's asked specific action on our part, so.
and I don't have any other comments.
Vote on it or not?
So I would move that we set that rate at 475 for the not to exceed number.
I'll second that motion.
We have a motion by the vice mayor and a second by Commissioner Giobbe. Is there any public discussion on this item? Ms. McBride, would you like to?
Could you rephrase the motion? Restate it?
That we set the millage not to exceed number to.
No, what is it?
It's not setting the millage, but it's a motion to not to provide, to file an SR 420 or DR 420 of, that we will not exceed 4.75 on our budget or millage. So that means during the budget process, if we were to go back to last year's budget or go to 4.76, we'd have to start the advertising over and do the whole thing over. It just caps it at 4.75.
And we're not setting it, but that's.
Right, it doesn't set it.
That's
They
the
could-
budget we're
right.
having them prepare.
It's a form that the city is required to file with Martin County, correct, and the state?
Right.
Yes,
I'm
Helen
sorry, Ms.
McBride,
McBride.
Lincoln Avenue. I have attended more budget meetings than anyone in this building. The first one was, we went line by line, how many paintbrushes, how much toilet paper, soap bars, everything. We started at 9 o'clock in the morning, and I think we did it a whole week of that. But I was here for every one. And back then, you know, our parks that were just overgrown and everything, our city sidewalks, you know, everybody can remember, those of us who lived here remember downtown Stuart, the garbage and all. We've come a long way. We have some fantastic programs. As Commissioner Clark said, and I think you may have said it, our Public Works Department, look what they've done and how clean everything, everything's mowed. We have when I raised my two children, they were 5 and 7 when Bob and I moved here. The only thing they had was in the summertime at Flagler Park, there was a summer program. Otherwise, we lived at the beach. We've come along, look at our recreation department. Those of you who have come and seen, every day there is something going on for the seniors, the working people. You go down to the bandstand, there's always activities. I've been going over to Shepherd's Park and seeing the kids play in the playgrounds. We have Memorial Park, every time you go around, there's something going on thanks to the recreation department. Like I was telling you about the soccer field, the football field. I'm going over and watching these games. The little leagues, the little tots playing baseball. And the basketball, there's always kids playing basketball. And I know 2 of you are new to this, but believe me, if you bring it down to where Commissioner Collins wants it, they're going to have to cut something because they're really working at bare bottom and they're squeezing their pennies. Leave it at 5. And Laura and Sean, maybe this year you could talk to each department head and go over to the departments and see how they work, see how dedicated they are. I do know you come to the rec center a lot, so but just Memorial Park. There's always, the rec center's always got something going on. And a lot of the times the employees are donating their time. But please, I know, if you're running for election, you want to say, oh yeah, I lowered your taxes, I did this, I. But on the backs of the little people, I mean, it sounds like you're being penny wise and pound foolish. Leave it at 5%. And that way, the garbage, the trash pickup, you don't see many people here unless they have a problem or they want to say something. But believe me, I've been here. You cut services, and you're going to have a lot of people standing up here, and I'll just sit there and say, oh, I told you so. But please, and I know you figured that as a group you were elected and you're going to change with the traffic, slow growth, no more box-sized apartment buildings. We all agree on that. But to take away the things that we, the people, enjoy, that we pay our taxes for, is wrong. 5, just leave it at 5. Do your homework this year. Really, really do your homework. Go around and see, and talk.
Thank you, Ms. McBride.
I get on my soapbox. Thank you.
Thank you, Helen.
I have no further public comment.
Any comments or questions from the commissioners?
Yes.
Okay. Actually, it was just a note to what Vice Mayor Collins had said about the lawsuit. It is my understanding in the research that I've done, if you're not part of the injunction in the lawsuit, even if they are successful, you would not benefit if you were not part of it. So you'd have to, that was my understanding.
That's not, the lawsuit is to declare this.
Okay, wait a minute. We have a motion. We're talking about the motion.
Okay, I'm sorry.
Okay, so. Do you have any questions or comments regarding?
No, I've already seconded the motion.
Okay.
Yeah, so just to the point of the millage, like was brought up in the last presentation, and it's the impetus for why I'm saying 475, we are going from property values that are double-digit increases each year that has been the case to now starting to turn the corner to where we are seeing single-digit increases in property values. The smart thing to do in your business when you're seeing your income decreasing is to start to decrease spending. The only lever that this commission has to start that new trajectory is to lower millage. That is the main lever we can pull, really the only lever we can pull, to tell staff, hey, we need to start looking at what we're spending and potentially start to curl that back. Now, with property values having increased to this point, does that represent the poop not leaving your house or the trash not leaving your house? I don't think that would be argued by anybody up here. But what that may look like is operating expenses and personnel being decreased. It may not mean that raises happen like they've happened in the past, but we have to start looking at so that we're not reactionary like happened in '08. Right? You don't want to have a situation where you have to have serious layoffs. You want to start moving with the income, right? You're seeing the trajectory of where things are going, and you start to pull back. It very well may be the case that over the next budget cycles that are coming in, that Trump saves America and money's flowing in, and there's no need, and you can start to go back in that opposite direction. But you should start to follow your income that's coming in, and the lever that we can say to tell our city manager, hey, start looking at what we're spending, is that millage, so that he has to come in with a tighter budget for this round. And then we see where the next cycle leaves us. If there's double-digit increases in property values, if we're swimming in money, let's make everybody captains. Let's hire more people. Let's expand. But if you're not, and you're actually seeing more of a trajectory like that, you've set yourself up by starting to decrease and cut down from having to do something reactionary where you do have to cut services. So those are my thoughts.
Yeah, I have no interest in reducing at this time. The state is going to come after us. We don't have the numbers on, they've increased the homestead exemption, and we don't have those numbers in hand. The economy is weakening, and what the state has proposed next year for reducing, for restricting the ability of cities to earn money through ad valorem tax is very scary. So we are going to be seeing reductions no matter what we do. Right. We certainly should not impose a penalty on ourselves. In addition, we've suggested a great deal of new spending. We have the considerable burden of an environmental attorney. If you think she's going to be all in at just her salary, I think you're ill-informed at this point. We have a responsibility to make sure she has the tools, resources, and financing that she needs to be successful. And we took on that responsibility. We need to be able to follow through on that. So I certainly don't want to reduce our revenue prior to her taking her job and understanding what opportunities may exist for her and what that may cost. So, seeing no other comments, roll call, please, Madam Clerk.
Commissioner Giobi?
Can I just ask to have the
Certainly.
read again, please?
Sure. It is to move to select the not-to-exceed millage rate at 4.75.
Okay. Yes.
Yes. Commissioner Clark?
No.
Vice Mayor Collins?
Yes.
And Mayor Rich?
No, so the motion fails. So, did you conclude your remarks, Mr.
I have no
Ortega?
other remarks.
What?
I have no other comments.
Okay, can I get a motion for the approval of the agenda, please?
So moved.
We have a motion by the Vice Mayor and a second by Commissioner Clark. Is there any public comment on this item? Seeing none, all in favor?
Aye.
Aye. Motion carries. Do we have any comments from the public on non-agenda related items? Sir, I'm looking right at you.
I I do. It's David Kelman.
Thank you for your patience.
Fine. Good evening, everybody. I'm the Vice President of Poppleton Creek Condo Association.
Could you just state your name and address, please, sir?
Dave Kelman, 950 South County Highway.
Thank you.
I want to appreciate Mr. Mortel going back and forth with me in email about our creek problem. We're trying to come up with some solutions, but I would hopefully like to get it on an official agenda to speak about the issues that we are having there as far as pollution, mangroves are out of control, amongst many other things. And that's basically what I'm here to discuss and talk about and be done with it, not to take up any more of your time, but I would like to have it hopefully officially on an agenda, hopefully soon.
Could you just clarify to, a small degree what problem you're referring to in Poppleton Creek?
Poppleton Creek, pollution, I've sent Mr. Mortel actual pictures of oil, pollution. I mean, it's just the smell. We have 26 docks on that property. I mean, there are plenty of days where I can't even sit on my dock because it's disgusting.
Have you sent emails to the city commissioners?
I've sent, yes, to Mr.
Okay,
Mortel, I've sent emails.
I'll ask Mr. Mortel I will call you up and come see.
Yeah, I mean, I've spoke to Mr. Reed, he's not here tonight,
Yeah.
but I've spoke to him. I tried to get him out a couple of times to come see it, but his schedule and my schedule didn't mesh. But, I mean, it's just, I'm not asking for the world. I know we all have budget problems right now. I deal with it all the time. So I'm not asking for the world. And like I said, I would like to thank, again, Mr. Mortel for his responses to my emails and some suggestions on what we could do. But
Thank you.
Yes, I'm glad you brought that to our attention. Yes, Commissioner.
Because all I hear about is Fraser Creek. Fraser Creek is just part of the downtown project and this and that and every other thing. But Poppleton Creek it's a pretty large creek.
You have a question for?
No, I don't, we don't engage too much,
Okay.
but just as a procedural thing for Mr. Mortel.
Thank you.
Do we have, thank you, sir.
Thank
Do
you.
we have somebody who does regular inspections along places like that to see if people who live in the residents that Poppleton Creek or other areas along any type of a creek or waterway that may be creating pollution? Does our code enforcement check out those type of waterway pollution type things?
We don't have any manufacturers in the Stuart area that are generating pollution into Poppleton Creek. And speaking with Dave, I'm not sure what the source is. It was a sheen on top of the water. It's likely coming from Canner Highway or other stormwater runoff into the creek. In 2011, the city of Stuart entered into a multi-million-dollar project with the DEP and literally dredged and created an island in Poppleton Creek right across from the Poppleton Creek apartments and trimmed back all the mangroves and built a bridge system with 3 patched islands for a walking path to it to help the flow. We also bought 25 acres of land from Kiplinger's on Central Parkway and then turned that into a big lake and dug that out to recharge the superficial aquifer and to stop the stormwater from running straight into Poppleton Creek and created a weir system so that the water flows over. It's where the water or dog park is on Poppleton Creek. And as it relates to the half-cent surtax, I have been in communication with staff members about projects for Fraser Creek only. No, I'm just kidding. About projects as it relates to both Fraser and Poppleton Creek, because they both have the same problem. And the problem is that over time, the silt from runoff from Lake Okeechobee, but also from the just topsoil and erosion and things from the runoff from the streets, fills in those creeks, and the mangroves also grow very big. And so it's expensive to trim them all and to stay on top of it. So in order to make those creeks more navigable for both boaters and kayakers and paddleboarders, we are going to be bringing you back some proposed projects. So we would go for matching grants with the DEP to try and and I don't know if it'll be dredging, I don't know if it'll be other types of projects, including trimming mangroves, but a whole series of things. And I will be bringing that back to you. We're just trying to organize what grants are out there and what we can do, but I have been speaking with David.
Such a large drainage area
Thank
into
you.
that creek.
Yeah.
Right, and so.
Tough one.
When he's talking about pollution, he's not talking about like 55-gallon barrels floating that are, it's literally, it's a sheen that was on top of the water that looked like it could have been oil from a boat, it could have been oil from the street runoff. I mean, I don't know what the source was.
And I was just thinking also of any type of septic thing or anything, any pump out or whatever that may have been coming from Popperton Creek condominiums itself or whatever. That's why I was thinking of the code enforcement type thing, but whatever we need to do to check that out.
It's worth looking into, certainly. Okay, any other?
I do. I have Helen McBride. Okay. Betty Brinkley.
Good evening again, Ms. Brinkley.
Yes, good evening again. And all the glory go to God. Thank God for Jesus. Because some of you up there, you are not nice people, in my opinion. You have a problem with East Stuart. And my thing is, you talking about, you want to put a skate, I'm thinking a skate ring, somebody on a roller skate. You want to put a skateboard out there. How many black people have you ever seen on a skateboard? So I'm saying you're doing this for the white community. You're not doing it for us. Black people do not own no skateboard. And it's very true, back in the days, they did own a skateboard. They do not do that. Salerno, Hope Sound, they do not do that. So this is for white people that you're doing this for, not for us. And it's in the heart of the Stuart, East Stuart. So you don't do nothing for us. And God is a good God, and he sits high and look, Lord, I still trust in God. I'm still going to love you. But what you're doing is wrong. And we pay, me and all of us going to pay the price for the wrong we do to people, because for whatever reason, we're going to pay the price Judgment Day. And I'm still loving you. I'm still loving you. And another thing, I got to, no disrespect, I love you, Mary. I do. I got a letter. I just lost my son, and it been that long, and right now I'm crying still, and it's been a year and a half. And I haven't been able to say, let go of my child. I can't, and I want to let go. But I can't go out there and put a headstone on my child out there and more. And I'm getting these harassing letters saying I don't have a headstone. I know people had offered to get one put on there, but I wasn't ready, and I'm still not ready to say final. When I get there, I'm going to put a headstone on my child. I'm going to put a headstone on him. But you keep sending me there. I'm not going to put them on there right now. I'm just getting myself back mentally without about losing my mind because I lost my child. He's 1 in a million. I'm just getting by the grace of God. He's bringing me back to reality. And now you're harassing me about a headstone. If I would known that, I read it, I would have never went out there. It's a black cemetery. I would have never put my child out there. I wouldn't have. And that, at this Farm Hill, people been dead 20-something years, and they still don't have a headstone on them. Farm Hill not harassing the people. The one in Salerno, the black, they not harassing people about no headstone. And here y'all with this be
Can we provide?
Thank you, Ms. Brinkley.
There's no deadline, it's just a reminder.
Can we stop sending her reminders?
Well,
while she's grieving?
You can change the code. I mean, the Mary's just
Can't have
followed our
a
instructions.
conversation that's not
Yeah.
available to the public, so.
We can bring it back and change the code if you'd like, but the code directs the clerk to, when they sell the plots, we need to have them marked so that they don't get lost or untracked, or that people don't walk on them and stuff like that.
Make an exception for her if she's grieving right now, clearly.
You guys can do whatever you, I mean, that's not in the code. You have to tell us, is it going to be a case by case, or I don't know what, I mean, I don't
Would you like to
care.
bring a discussion back?
Can I motion that we
And you could buy her a headstone.
That's not,
Yeah.
she doesn't want a headstone because she,
That's,
She does.
she doesn't, she's not ready for a headstone, is what she's saying.
I know that's what,
so the authority would be to,
What we do is, according to the ordinance, it allows somebody to purchase a headstone within 6 months of the burial, and then after 6 months, and it's been a year and a half, we sent a first reminder, and it's a very kind and gentle reminder. It's not enforcement.
of course.
And it also, then we wait, and then we send a second reminder. And we talked about how now it's like till October 1st, we're asking for them to comply. But I have communicated with Mrs. Brinkley, and
We're not gonna send any more
she-
reminders, right?
Yeah, we're fine.
Okay.
We do offer a brick that the city purchases and takes care of, but I understand some people don't want that.
Right.
Maybe, I was going to talk to the Public Works Director and maybe put in a temporary brick as opposed to making it permanent until,
I wouldn't put anything on that site until she's ready.
Any other? Thank you, Ms.
Oh,
Brinkley.
yes, I do, I'm sorry, Travis Deckers.
Hello, Commissioners. My name is Travis Deckers. I'm here speaking on for Local 2411, but also pretty much for most of the city. I just wanted to clarify a few things really quickly. City of Stuart Fire Rescue runs on minimum staffing. What minimum staffing is for us is 2 people on a rescue and 2 people on a suppression truck. That is ridiculous. The National Fire Protection Association is now at 4 on a suppression truck and 3 on a rescue truck. We operate on 2 for every vehicle in our department, and we do the best we can with what we have. And we do very well. We do. We actually have a very high ROSC rate, which for those of you who don't know, Fire Rescue does EMS, and to be honest, that is a fair majority of the job. It's about a little over 90% of our call volume. So our ROSC rate means that when we have someone who dies and we perform CPR, we also do ALS skills, advanced life support. We put them on a monitor. We can shock them. We can give them medications. We have one of the higher ROSC rates in this state. One of the departments that beats us is Palm Beach County. Their staffing is 4 on an engine, 3 on a rescue. Now, take our numbers. If you were to give us more staffing, we could do much better than they can. So, when we talk about lowering the millage and we say bring it to 4.75, when we're already at bare bones, and I speak on behalf of the majority of departments in this city, I can't imagine when we reduce our budget, when we're already over on certain things, what that'll do to staffing in terms of not just not hiring new positions, but also in terms of positions we already have when certain places are already losing employees based off of contracts that have come up in the past. So that's really all I came to speak on. I'm thankful that we're keeping it at 5 in terms of the not to exceed so that we can have further discussion about this. So that's really all I have on that. Thank you.
Thank you.
I have no further comment, Mayor.
Okay, can we have a motion for approval of the consent calendar?
So move.
Second.
Once again, we have a, are you okay, Commissioner Joby? Would you like to take a
I
recess?
just need to stand.
Okay, I just, we
But I
have a
do it at
motion
the
by
end,
the
I'm
Vice Mayor.
short, so
Excuse me?
I said I do it at the end of the dais. I'm short, so it's not
Martell?
too interfering.
City Manager,
And second by Commissioner Clark. Is there any public comment on this item?
item number 2 within the
oh,
consent?
no, I'm sorry. I needed to announce too, I mentioned this at the CRA meeting.
You're pulling 2?
Item number 2 is being withdrawn and will be brought back on August 11th because we didn't get
We need the
paperwork
contract in
from
hand.
the contract to be able to see it for you to approve it.
Well, that makes
That's for the
sense.
project lift. I mentioned it during the CRA, but I forgot. So it's just items 1 and 3.
So we are approving the consent calendar, including the minutes, excluding item 2 and including item 3. No public comment? Roll call, please.
May I clarify? It was, the motion was by Commissioner Collins.
The Vice
and-
Mayor?
Vice Mayor Collins
Yes,
and
and-
Commissioner Clark?
Yes.
Thank you. Vice Mayor Collins?
Yes.
Commissioner Clark?
Yes.
Commissioner Giobi?
Yes.
Mayor Rich?
Yes. Mr. Baggett, will you read item 4 for our consideration, please?
Resolution number 63-2025, a resolution of the City Commission of the City of Stuart, Florida, authorizing the execution of amendments to leases with tenants at 301 Southeast Ocean Boulevard between the City of Stuart and various tenants to allow for the termination of leases in the year 2028, to allow staff to relocate in accordance with prior commission action, providing for an effective date and for other purposes.
Mr. Martell, are you going to take the
I
lead
am.
here?
As luck would have it, I don't have the signed leases from either Bowman or the Cancer Center here, but in order to expedite it and move forward, I'm happy to bring it back to you, but the only change in either of the leases, all the terms would remain the same. The only change that's being made is that in the Bowman lease, their lease actually expires this November, and they agreed to extend their lease until, at a minimum, they want to have the ability to leave in January of '27, but the way the lease would read is they can stay up until February of '28, but because they're trying to find a place to relocate, but they're extending it right now until January of '27. If they were to stay past January of '27, I'd come back before the commission to extend it again from there. The other lease is the cancer specialist. The cancer specialist had an option and then another option, so they had about 9 more years that they could stay. But the only change in that lease is that the end date is February 28th of '28. So effectively, March 1st would be, we would take possession of the property.
Without any more extensions?
And they're giving up the extensions and all good, and we go our separate ways. And the purpose for that is obviously organizing it, so the intention was trying to get Bowman to go to that, and the February 28th of '28 is when this current extension that they're in right now runs out. Then they could exercise another 5 years after that, but they're willing to give that up, and they'll move out at the end. And part of that is, there's a litany of circumstances, but part of it is that they're actually outgrowing the place, and there's a lot of parking constraints, and so if we started painting parking numbers and getting strict on it, we could make it difficult for each other. We obviously haven't done that, we don't want to do that, and so the purpose for this is to get authorization from the City Commission to extend the Bowman lease, all terms the same, just until January of '27, and then with this option to go to all the way through '28 if they don't find space, but they wanted to make sure that they could leave in January of '27, so I said, okay, just make the lease till January of '27, and then agreeing to reduce the cancer specialist lease to remove all options, and their lease ends February 28, 2028. And there's no other terms to change. The
Questions? Is that clear?
leases have been adopted.
Okay.
So I appreciate you lining all these up for '28. I know we've already talked about this, but is there no benefit to sort of moving in pieces and moving into Bowman's location with some amount of city staff?
Well, so the way that it
I
was...
know we want the rent.
Well, the way it was designed was that the Bowman space was the city manager, city attorney, and city clerk would go there. And the concern would be that if we had Bowman leave this November and city manager, city attorney, and city clerk left this building, all that would really be left in the building is the development department. We'd still have to come here for meetings, but everybody would be gone, and the public would come to the building and would be confused by it. So rather than, and I didn't want to leave one department kind of behind, and then you also have engineering in the annex building. So by moving it to this 28th date, that gives us the ability to build out the meeting room in the cancer center. It also happens to coincide with the same time that the state of Florida's lease is already expiring, and the Williams and Leninger lease expires within a couple of months of that as well. So the rest of the building essentially become available.
Minus Wells.
The minus Wells, but the cancer specialists were going to be there. So what we're doing is flipping. Originally, the dais in the meeting room was going to be where Wells is, but because the cancer specialists are leaving, we can move in and let Wells stay and go and have the whole separate building be the cancer, be the dais and stuff, be the cancer building. Plus, by leaving Bowman there, you end up receiving about $165,000 to $170,000 a year in rent, plus the taxes, plus the maintenance. And the benefit to it, with us being split between us, would be probably confusing to the public, so it's just better to do it all at one time. But yes, we could, in fact, if the commission directed us to, not extend to Bowman and end in November and move staff to the Bowman place in
When
November.
do these need to be signed? And
Well, I was hoping to have them back for them to be signed this week, because Bowman's need to make decisions as to whether they're going to move out by November or not.
you said we don't have the actual.
Well, I did, I said I wanted them signed from the cancer specialists and from the tenants before we sign them.
Correct.
And so if you want, I can roll this to the 11th and bring it back as it
Everything
relates
you're
to
saying
it.
is reasonable. That would just be, I'd
Right.
like to look at it.
Sure.
Put eyes on it before I approve it.
Right, and like I said, it's not, I can give you the whole leases too, but the only thing that's changing is the date. But it's fine with me, we can roll it to the
That would be
11th.
what I would prefer. I'd like to put eyes on it. Everything you're saying sounds good.
Nothing's going to happen without a motion, so.
Okay. So do you need a motion to bring it back next time?
Nope, it just rolls.
Just rolls.
And that would,
Does-
if it did.
Does anybody wish to make a motion?
With any of the leases, or would-
I don't think so.
Commissioner Clark? Commissioner Joby? No?
So if we don't make a motion, it just rolls to the next agenda in August 11th?
Right. Here's, this, by the way, this is the unsigned lease, it's literally 3 paragraphs.
Okay.
Perfect.
No action is taken regarding this item.
Simon.
Right.
Mr. Baggett, first reading of item 5.
Ordinance number 2543-2025, an ordinance of the City Commission of the City of Stuart, Florida, rescinding City of Stuart Ordinance number 2539-2025 pursuant to Section 28 of Florida Senate Bill 180, which was adopted and effective as of July 1st, 2025, providing for conflict, providing for an effective date, and for other purposes. This ordinance and agenda item was prepared by myself. As the mayor had mentioned, this is the first reading, so no final action is taken today. And it would be on the second reading at the next commission meeting, and is where you would take final action, and hopefully we'll have a full board at the next meeting with Commissioner Reed returning. If any motion is done today, it would just be, I've always suggested doing a motion and transmit it to the second reading, but you don't have to do that because it'll automatically go to the second reading, which would be next commission meeting. I wanted to kind of give you a brief summary of the issue as I see it. As the ordinance title says, that the Senate Bill 180 went into effect July 1st. I don't think that's any surprise to anybody. It's been big news. This really pays attention to only Section 28 of Senate Bill 180, which impacts moratoriums and adoptions of more restrictive amendments to the city's land development regulations. As you recall, the City Commission directed staff to initiate the zoning in progress last summer. For 6 months, the city had a moratorium on development applications while the commission considered amendments to the LDRs, land development regulations. And on March 20th and April 16th, respectively, the City Commission adopted those amendments that they chose to the land development regulations. I want to specifically review Section 28 with you guys. And the Section 28 will apply to each county listed in the Federal Disaster Declaration for certain hurricanes. Most important would be Hurricane Milton, the last one. And each municipality within one of those counties, and we were listed or Martin County was listed in that declaration for Hurricane Milton, so this law does apply to the city of Stuart. And as a result, Section 28 says that the city may not adopt more restrictive or burdensome amendments to its comp plan or land development regulations, or or adopt more restrictive or burdensome procedures concerning review, approval, or issuance of a site plan, development permit, or development order. And any such moratorium or restrictive or burdensome comp plan amendments or land development regulations or procedures shall be null and void ab initio, and that in Latin terms mean as if it never took place. And of course, they have the next line that says, this subsection applies retroactively back to August 1st, 2024, which is a few weeks before we started our zoning in progress. And this is what concerns me. This is my reason for bringing this ordinance back to you guys, to have it rescinded. And I use the words rescission or rescinding because we know what that means because we dealt with that with the Bright Line. So I wanted something familiar with you, but this statute discusses repeal, so I want you to think repeal and rescission are synonymous, they're the same. But I knew you guys would know what rescission means and rescinding is versus repealing. So a resident of or an owner of a business in a county or municipality may bring a cause of action for declaratory and injunctive relief against the city for a violation of this section. Pending adjudication of the action and upon filing of a complaint showing a violation of this section, the resident or business owner is entitled to a preliminary injunction against the county or municipality preventing implementation of the moratorium or the comp plan amendment, land development regulation, or procedure. If such civil action is successful, the resident or business owner is entitled to reasonable attorney's fees and costs. And we've gotten a taste of that in some of the cases recently. That could be a high number. Attorney's fees and costs and damages may not be awarded, and this is where it gets, this is what's requiring the city to take action to repeal or rescind our prior ordinance. The resident or business owner provides the governing body, the attorney's fees and costs and damages may not be awarded pursuant to the subsection if the city takes this action. Or if a resident or business owner takes this action and the city responds. The resident or business owner provides the governing body or county or municipality written notice that an enacted moratorium, comp plan amendment, land development regulation, or procedure is in violation of this section. So all we've got to do is receive an email or a letter. At that point, this law triggers. The city is required to withdraw in the case of an adopted moratorium, comp plan amendment, or land development regulation. The governing body or city notices an intent to repeal within 14 days after receipt of the notice, and repeals said moratorium, land development regulation that was amended within 14 days. Sometimes we go 3 weeks without a meeting, so that could put us in jeopardy of not even being able to meet the 14 days. So that's why I brought this forth, so that we can go ahead and cut this off and prevent anybody from sending us a letter and exposing the city to unnecessary fees. As Commissioner Joby and the Vice Mayor brought up an interest in joining this lawsuit with Weiss Sirota Law Firm, it's my opinion that us taking this action on this ordinance would not impact our ability to join the lawsuit. It would not impact the results of the lawsuit. If anything, it would make our position in the lawsuit stronger because this law is having a negative impact on the city versus a potential impact of the city, because we are having to rescind our law that we spent several months amending.
Would you consider being sued an impact by other?
Yeah, I mean, obviously that, I'm not saying that we have to rescind it or not rescind it to have standing in the litigation. I'm letting you know that if we rescind it, it's not going to affect our ability to join the lawsuit. If anything, I think it makes us look better compared to cities that haven't done any code revisions that are affected by it, that they potentially, over the next 2 years, couldn't change their land development regulations, whereas we have already done it. What I will say is rescinding the ordinance at this point will stop anybody from filing a lawsuit against us or, sending us a letter and then threatening to sue us. Because if someone sends us a letter, the very next meeting I'm going to have asking you guys to rescind this ordinance. So we'll be in the same boat we are now. And I understand that some of you, I wanted to explain to you, it's my opinion that doing this would not impact any of us joining that potential lawsuit. I did speak to not Jamie Cole, who I guess some of you spoke to, but I spoke to Susan Trevarthen, who I've met in the past, and I spoke to her on the phone, and then I also saw her at a conference last week down in Boca for city lawyers, and I spoke to her a second time about it. So I'm familiar with it, and she sent me, I do have attached, they sent me an email and attached the proposed resolution, and that's what, it was either Commissioner Giobbe or Vice Mayor mentioned, or both of you mentioned. And what it was is it's just a draft of a resolution that we could bring forward. We would obviously have to tailor it towards the city and add a resolution number and probably tweak it somewhat to make it relevant to our facts here. But that's what that resolution was. But we would have to obviously put that on a future agenda in the upcoming future. And so if you have any other questions, I'm fine with answering anything, but that's kind of my recommendation. It might not be what you want to hear, but my thoughts and my advice to you is to prevent the city from getting sued.
Mr. Vice Mayor?
Yes. So I'd like to read from that resolution. I really felt like it did a good job of being focused on some of the contentions I had with this. To my original point in my comments, I believe if we don't push back on this, I believe if we just rescind this and roll over, it's going to get worse. I see this as sort of like the Alamo, it's now or never. If you don't put your flag in the sand, if you don't draw a line and say we're not going to roll over, it's just going to continue to get worse. And if I don't have the ability to implement the will of the people who put me in this seat, there's really no need for us to exist. If I cannot implement code changes, because this inevitably will continue to be extended forever, I find this is kind of it. It's now or never for me on this. So I'm going to read from a few points on SB 180 from this resolution, a few whereas clauses that I feel like really summarize why. Whereas SB 180 is unconstitutional and invalid because, among other things, it embraces more than one subject and matter properly connected therewith in violation of Article 3, Section 6 of the Florida Constitution, includes a defective title in violation of Article 3, Section 6 of the Florida Constitution, requires municipalities and counties to spend in the aggregate an amount that exceeds an insignificant fiscal impact without including a finding that the law fulfills an important state interest, as required by Article 7, Section 18 of the Florida Constitution, constitutes a sweeping intrusion on home rule authority, threatening local ability to enact land use, zoning, flood resiliency, and environmental protections contrary to Article 8, Section 2B of the Florida Constitution to a degree that renders the constitutional provision hollow. Whereas, for example, despite SB 180 being titled Emergencies, SB 180 contains various matters that are not connected and/or are unrelated to emergencies, including Section 18 and 28's total ban on any more intrusive or burdensome land use and zoning regulations, Section 18's prohibition on moratoria and construction, reconstruction, and redevelopment of property, even if the property is intact and was not damaged by a hurricane or other emergency event. Whereas Section 28 of SB 180 similarly prohibits municipalities from enacting zoning and land use regulations for the entire state of Florida retroactively from August 1st, 2020 regulations that are more restrictive or burdensome, and other ambiguous provisions render SB 180 incomprehensible, create uncertainty, chill local governance, and encourage preemptive, potentially frivolous litigation to force local governments into repealing legislation, even if it might otherwise be a valid exercise of home rule authority. So I know you don't need comment from us tonight, we're not voting, but as of right now, where it stands, I would not be comfortable, I do not think it's the right thing to rescind these codes, this zoning in progress that we were in for 6 months, doing our best to try to deliver what people voted for. And I think it's incredible that you would chuckle at that. Somebody who rented the sign on Monterey that said, "Are you tired of traffic?" I'm not done.
Mr. Vice
I'm not
Mayor,
done.
you may not characterize other commissioners'
I'm going
behaviors or
to
comments.
quote what you put on that sign. Are you tired of traffic?
Mr. Vice Mayor,
time
you may not
It's time for a
characterize
pause.
the motives or comments of your fellow
You need to
commissioners.
stop interrupting me. It's time for a pause.
You're out of order, I will interrupt
It's time
you.
for a pause on development. That is a zoning in progress. For you to chuckle at everybody that voted for you and for that, I think is inappropriate. Those are my comments.
Point of order, where are we on the on this?
Well, it's only the first reading. We're not
No.
required to take a vote. It will automatically be transmitted.
Correct.
Mr. Baggett's point is, though, someone could come in tomorrow and file a lawsuit. Correct?
Well, they could send a letter.
If we don't-
They could send it now. I'd rather not talk more about it on the
He
time.
doesn't want to teach them how to do it.
Yeah, do a little primer, TED Talk.
It's not a secret.
Yeah.
So we're at item number 5, Resolution 2543, 2025?
Yes.
Okay, so, normally, I would probably have the same feelings that I think that Commissioner Giobi and Commissioner Collins have when it comes to home rule and what other communities are doing. However, in regard to this particular Senate bill and the specific things that it mentioned under the Emergency Act and the way that it reaches back, and for what we did, I think that it stands, we have a conflict, at least I have a conflict, because I said it probably 6 different times or more when we had those meetings, that I don't think we followed the proper procedure in the ZIP, in getting this input from our community that we say that we want, and having this top-down approach on the ZIP. And I think that, you know, we have this boomerang effect now. I don't want anybody to trample on home rule, but because this one particular thing that we did at this time, I just think that we didn't do it, we didn't follow the right procedures, and I kept saying that all this time that we voted through that process, and even when I had to vote, because I wanted to make sure that the East Stuart area was absolutely considered, and because that was kind of parceled out and left onto the last minute, and it ended up looking like it was a vote for whatever situation we were going through the past 6 months and then some. I just think that home rule needs to be protected, but at the same time, because I know in my heart, we didn't do the study, we didn't do the kind of things that truly created the change that we wanted if we wanted zoning and rezoning in our entire community or into a specific area of our community. We dropped the multifamily, we dropped the commercial, we dropped this, we dropped that, and then we only had these things related to just East Stuart alone. Yes, for this time, I agree with the state. I hope that we continue to move forward with this thing.
Okay, yes, that was you stated that repeatedly and correctly, that we did not follow proper procedure. So I am not willing to expose the residents of the city of Stuart to lawsuits. This is not a Senate bill. This is a law. This is a state law. And we swore an oath and signed an oath to uphold the state law. And we don't get to choose which laws they are. We can be unhappy, we can complain, we can talk to our legislators, but we are required to follow the law. It passed both the House and the Senate unanimously. And, they are absolutely coming after home rule. This is one way they do it, and they will continue to do it. And
Fight.
Our misbehavior
Misbehave.
regarding the changes we proposed does not help in this effort at all. If these people are effective in fighting this, and, it's hard to predict that, that state law will be undone and will apply to everyone, because that's how state laws work. The risk of lawsuits is very hard here, and I don't want to see our money wasted in eventually having to comply anyway. So, but we will see what the next meeting brings, because we are not taking a vote this evening. So let's hope nobody files tomorrow. Any other remarks regarding this? Okay. Moving on to item 6, discussion.
May,
You should allow
There's
public
no
comment.
motion.
There's no motion.
I'm happy to make a motion to move this to the second reading if that's what you need for public comment. Is that what you'd like?
Okay,
So I'd like to make a motion to move this item to second reading.
okay.
I'll second the motion.
We have the motion by the Vice Mayor and a second by Commissioner Joby. Is there any public comment?
yes, I
Ms.
have
Cartwright.
Robin Cartwright.
Good evening, Commissioners. I too spoke to Commissioner Howlington as well as Attorney Cole, and there are some things that you should be aware of that you're choosing to ignore. Rescinding any part of any smart growth ordinance without next steps is a mistake, as there are a myriad of issues with Senate Bill 180, whether you think you process anything correctly or not. Number one, the bill was intended to be specific to properties impacted by hurricanes, but the entire state of Florida was under an emergency from Hurricane Milton, and therefore every city, county, village, town, and municipality is open right now to any applicant saying that they can file under Senate Bill 180. Number two, it's a one-size-fits-all mentality. Every municipality is being treated the same. Martin County is being treated no differently than Miami. It doesn't matter that our comp plans are different, and this bill is being unilaterally applied and effectively limits, and as we have all heard, removes home rule, as development rules are being centralized and managed by the state. Number three, standards would be rolled back retroactively to July 2024 to all of the ordinance being approved by any municipality, which could be deemed quote-unquote burdensome. However, there is no definition of what burdensome means in this bill. So let's say you live in a coastal community like Stuart, and an ordinance was created that dwellings must now be stilted, and your house built at sea level flooded because of a hurricane. And let's say you didn't get enough money from the insurance company, so you can say that it is burdensome for you to build your house on stilts, and you appeal under the Senate bill, and theoretically you cannot be denied, so you rebuild your house at sea level, which leads us to the fourth issue. What will insurance now cover? Insurance rates were not addressed as part of this bill, so if you rebuild your house to a standard that is no longer a best practice, can an insurance company now deny you because you aren't building to current code? And can you sue the municipality for being uninsurable? And if your house floods again, is this municipality now responsible for your repairs? None of this is addressed in the Senate bill. This bill is an unfunded mandate, meaning that in this bill, it is required that cities and counties are to offer safety measures like shelters, yet no money was provided as part of this bill to fund these requirements. This creates a financial burden for every municipality. And the biggest issue with this bill is that it may never sunset. Senate Bill 180 is in place by statute until October 2027. However, the bill states very clearly the proposed date that the bill ends is contingent upon emergencies being declared in the state of Florida. So the end date resets after every emergency that the governor declares. And as we have hurricanes every year, there's a state of emergency declared every year, and there is a chance that this bill will never sunset. Every municipality should consider joining this lawsuit. It is not a class action lawsuit. There is no guarantee that any injunction or potential ruling would be in favor of municipalities would be applicable to every municipality in the state. That would be up to the judge, and that is a result of the Supreme Court ruling that happened last year. Maybe the legislature will review it later. We can't determine that, but this lawsuit at least protects municipalities in the meantime. And if Senate Bill 180 doesn't affect us today, it will theoretically exist in perpetuity, and there is no doubt that the city of Stuart, the village of Indiantown, Martin County, et cetera, will at some point be sued. There are many failures we face with this bill, but the biggest failure we do is to not push back to Tallahassee.
Thank you.
Thank you.
I have Walter Lloyd.
Good evening, Commissioners. Walter Lloyd, 150 Cabana Point Circle. Thank you, Ms. Cartwright. That was wonderful. Mine's much more simple. I just would say, do not rescind the ZIP. Do not rescind all of that action that was put forth. Because if you rescind that, you're basically rescinding your commitment to your constituents, to the people that put you up there.
Yep.
And I don't think your integrity would allow you to do that. I'd say fight any action from any entity, including the state, that would adversely affect your ability to represent and lead your community, again, leading to your integrity. And join any efforts. If this isn't a class action, whatever it is, I would say join it, and that will reserve or preserve our rights to make decisions which directly affect our quality of life and environment. I would say do not give way to those who are driven by the love of money and the influence of money and are acting in an authoritarian manner. I would say stand up for your community. Thank you.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Thank you.
I have no further public comment, Mayor.
Okay. Moving on to item 6, I believe, Mr.
Well,
Moore.
you have a motion and a second now.
Oh, you're right, I'm sorry.
All in favor? All in favor is fine.
Yeah, roll call.
Oh, okay. Mayor Rich?
Mayor, it is simply to transmit to this.
Correct. To second reading.
Yeah, the second reading. Yes.
Commissioner Clark?
What did you, what was your
Simply
motion?
to
Move it to the second reading.
Oh,
Just
Yeah,
go
we're
in
not,
there
we're not
anyway.
voting today, we're
Yes.
just voting to move it to the vote.
Commissioner Giobe?
Yes.
Vice Mayor Collins?
Yes.
Okay, sorry. Now, item 6, Mr. Martell.
Thank you, Ms. Cartwright.
Item 6 is
Parking lot for the Bright Line.
the history of the Martin County Courthouse parking lot. And basically, I need to kind of back up and give this history to the commission. Originally, like when I was 16, to get your driver's license, you went to what is currently the Arts Council, and that was the courthouse. And then in the early 80s, they tore down some additions to that building, and they were building the new courthouse, which was going to open up in roughly 1988. As they were doing the courthouse, the design that Martin County had prepared had Gazebo Park as 65 parking spaces, and they were going to raise or tear down the historic courthouse as well, and that where the courthouse was an extension of that parking lot that's also directly in front of the courthouse. The city of Stuart intervened, and the city of Stuart said, no, we do not want the entrance to Confusion Corner into downtown to be all asphalt there in a big sea of parking. Please don't make that Gazebo Park a parking lot. And so the city agreed that it would take over that parking lot and maintain it as a park in perpetuity so long as the county didn't make it the parking lot. In addition to that, the city applied for a grant to restore the cultural center into a historic building and agreed that it would maintain the cultural center for the 15 years following that period, again, in exchange for them not making the parking lot. The city ended up maintaining the cultural center for a little bit over 30 years instead of 15, and then it transferred back to the county, who's been maintaining it with the Arts Council now. At the time, though, the county said, look, we need parking at the courthouse, so we can't just not have the parking lot. This, this won't work. And so the city said, okay, well, in addition, we will give you the 2-acre parcel that we had acquired from Florida Power and Light that is now the 2-acre parcel that's the subject of the Bright Line parking lot. And the county would then build parking there for the courthouse. The parking that we provided, and I should mention, when the city gave that land to the county, it was unaware, but the land had some chemical spills of some sort, and I don't know what it was, but the county actually had to spend some money with the DEP to get a no further action and clean it up in order to make it a parking lot, because it had been a Florida Power and Light property, and back in the 60s and 70s and even early 80s, Florida Power and Light used to insulate their transformers with an oil that contained PCBs that turned out to be extremely toxic. I don't know that it was PCBs on the site that cleaned it up, but in any event, it got cleaned up. It turns into this parking lot, and the city commission in 1988 passed a resolution 33-88 reducing the number of parking spaces that the Martin County Courthouse would need by 65 spaces, and saying that it did not need those spaces. Now, where it gets kind of complicated is that the whole story about the courthouse really doesn't matter, because the courthouse already exists, and we've already approved the courthouse, and therefore the parking question that you're creating is really about the Brightline station.
No.
Because the courthouse, by our code and by their desire, would have had more parking, but the city of Stuart said, no, you're not allowed to have more parking, and reduced all of their parking in the 80s in order to have Gazebo Park. So they said no. But,
So part of this conversation would be
and I'll finish it too, once I get through the station.
having
which is-
those documents. Because the parking on that site relative to the courthouse is the issue as far as it is displaced by Brightline. The
Right, so-
Brightline issue
I know,
and
but no.
FEC is a totally separate
Let
issue.
me finish the presentation,
order.
the discussion. So the 2-acre parcel ended up with 166, or 160 parking spaces on it. In addition to that, the courthouse owns the triangular parking lot that's next door to Sailfish Ball Fields that has 125 spaces on it. And then they also have the parking lot that's right up against the courthouse that has all the judges, that has like another 50 or 60 parking spaces on it. But again, that's not going to matter, because when I get to the explanation of the 2-acre parcel, which is really the only parcel being impacted,
Correct.
if you treat it as a train station under our code, Chapter 6 says in the City of Stuart's code that a train or bus station must build 4 parking spaces per platform. I don't know where that came from, but that's what it says. That would be a total of 8 spaces. If you treat it like an office building, my recollection was that it was going to be an 8,000 square foot train station, but I'm going to use 10,000 square feet for the sake of conversation. If it was a 10,000 square foot office building under our code, it's 1 space per 300 square feet. And as a result, that would need 33.3 parking spaces. So we'll make it 34.
Courthouse or
The train station. So the parking lot right now that already exists has 160 spaces in it. They're stating that they're going to build a 10,000 square foot train station there. There's a grass area too that they could build it on regardless. But they also, in the interlocal agreement that we're referring to, and in the agreements that everybody talked about between the county and Brightline, whether they built a parking garage or surface parking, Brightline was going to build 200 spaces. So if they built 200 spaces, 160 of them would, pursuant to our code, would replace the 160 spaces that the county needed to have their courthouse, and then there'd be 40 spaces left, and they would need to provide 33 for a 10,000 square foot office building, which would be 193 spaces. They'd technically be overbuilding it by 7 spaces, or they'd be building 7 spaces more than they were required to build. But they also get credit because we didn't have the on-street parking on East Ocean Boulevard or on Flagler, at the time that the courthouse was built, that those spaces also would count to their parking counts. The deficiency in our code is that our code doesn't distinguish between paid parking and unpaid parking. Because I know in your example, Brightline is technically going to take those 200 spaces and charge $17, $18, $20 a day to park in those. So they're not really the same as an open parking space that's in an open parking lot that anybody can park in. But if you look at our code and you look at the code doesn't distinguish and say that you have to have free parking spaces or charged parking spaces. It just says parking spaces. So if somebody charges for parking and they have parking spaces, they still meet our code. If they don't charge for parking, they still meet our code. So under our code, if in fact Resolution 33-88 and the whole story about the city wanting to do the save the cultural center and save Gazebo Park, and therefore they reduced the number of parking spaces to the county, whatever that finite number was, it was. They built 160 spaces in the two-acre space. If they built back less than 160 spaces, then I agree with you, they'd be invading that approval, and the county would be needing to provide whatever, if they built 100 spaces, then there'd be 60 short that they'd be not providing. But they have 160, and if they build 200, they're actually building 40 over. It gets more complicated because on the day that the county, and they're not sharing parking because that would be, the 160 would be county, and then the additional spaces would be Brightline or FRA or FEC or whoever it is. But we can't make FEC build the 33 because they will be exempt under the federal FRA rules if in fact the county were to lease that space to the county. Then there's the next issue was...
Oh, I'm sorry, if the county were to lease it to...
Brightline, I'm sorry. So the day they signed the lease to Brightline, that parking area would become part of the FEC corridor, which would be under the jurisdiction of the FRA, and the FEC doesn't have to come to us to get permit reviews and to get reviews. So we can't say to them, you need 37 parking spaces or 48 parking spaces. They can pick whatever number they want. They could do 0, and we couldn't regulate it. We could regulate.
This is such nonsense.
We could regulate the county.
This is so painful.
But there's also, then the last piece of the puzzle is there's cement directly behind our water treatment plant. And people park there now every day and every weekend and play baseball, or people park there to go to work at the water treatment plant, or people probably park there to go to the courthouse. I mean, I honestly don't know what the different uses are or who's parking there. My proposal was to paint diagonal stripes on all of that cement so that the parking spaces, because right now you can kind of park anywhere, it's not really delineated, but to delineate them as very specific parking spaces, and then put up 3-hour parking signs that made it so that you couldn't park in those spaces for longer than 3 hours. We could obviously give an exception to our employees that work in that building, but that way, if somebody were, and again, we're talking about 2030 or 2031, but if somebody were to come to take Brightline and want to park their car and they were going to go out of town for a week, if they had to pay $20 a day to park in the 2-acre parking lot, or they could park on these cement parking spaces and just leave their car for free, my fear was that they would park on these cement spaces and leave their car for free. So originally what I had said is I was going to stripe those and make them 3-hour. The one last clause that was in the original interlocal agreement was that the city would provide 54 spaces that were open to the public within 2,500 feet of the courthouse. Well, the Denver, Georgia, Detroit, all are within 2,500 feet. So is Seminole behind like where the SunTrust Bank used to be. On top of that, East Ocean, Flagler, and MLK are all, and Dixie, are all within that 2,500-foot range. And we probably have 200 parking spaces that are open to the public within that 2,500-foot range of the courthouse. So I was never planning on actually having the city build any parking. My thought was the city will continue to maintain the on-street parking on East Ocean Boulevard as open to the public. In that interlocal agreement, though, there is no restriction about the 3-hour parking. So the city could have 3-hour parking go, it could be citywide, it could be on every street in the city if that was the inclination of the staff, or all that stuff downtown. And at one point, when Paul Nicoletti was city manager, he had actually expanded the 3-hour parking, I think, down past the courthouse. I don't know if it's still 3-hour parking now or not, but I think it is 3-hour parking on East Ocean. I don't know if it is on Stipman, MLK, or Georgia, or for that matter, Flagler on the other side. But that's a decision that could be made at any time in the future. That could be made 3-hour parking. It was the intention to make it 3-hour parking just so that people that were going to be taking long trips on Brightline wouldn't usurp the public parking to do that, by taking it over. But as it relates to the actual disparity in parking, Resolution 3388 reduced the number of parking spaces that the county had to produce by 65 in order to make that deal happen with the gazebo park.
What is the number of required spaces for the courthouse?
I couldn't find it in the resolution, but what I know what it is what they built.
We relieved it of 65 spaces from its requirement.
Right, and so then they built what they have.
So what is it? What's the requirement? Maybe that's a Jody question.
So Jody did a math, and it was 403 spaces based upon its square footage.
Correct.
But I couldn't find the actual language of what
Why was that so hard? Why
approved.
didn't you just say it? So 400
But
minus
because that's
65.
not what it was then. That was in 1986. That's based upon now.
ITE rates are
What has
different.
changed?
What was the code at that time? This shouldn't be hard to figure out.
It is. I mean, I don't know. Did you find it?
We don't know what our code was in 1988 for...
1986.
86 for
It wa-
commercial government.
ITE, they made up their own numbers.
It was kind of a free-for-all. I mean, but for what it's worth,
Is that what's relevant, or is it what it is now?
well, that's the question. The city said,
Not doing their ITE.
we want you to not build any parking and keep this green space. The county said, no, we won't do that. And the city said, okay, we'll give you this 2 acres
Correct.
to satisfy the parking and build what parking you can on the 2 acres. They built the
We
160,
relieved them 65 spaces, but we didn't
Well-
say this is all your parking here.
well, except for we CO'd the building and didn't require them to build any other parking, and they didn't reduce any other parking
But
since
now,
then.
like if you had any other business, if a business came into the city,
Right.
it would meet current parking requirements.
The new business, which is Brightline.
No, Brightline has nothing to do with the courthouse.
Right,
The courthouse has to be able to park itself.
right. So they have to meet those 160 spaces. They park themselves with that 160. But if
No, we
Brightline
said
came in,
it's- we don't know exactly what that number is. We just know it's been relieved of 65 of them.
okay, so if a doctor's office comes in across the street from the courthouse somehow has to build 403 parking spaces?
No, it's on, the Brightline project is proposed on their required parking for their,
But they're increasing it to 200.
they're
They
increasing.
have 160 spaces there that we required, and the Brightline contract said they're going to build 200 spaces. So they're adding 40 more spaces. They're not-
Brightline is going to build 200.
That's what, again, this is all hypothetical. Brightline might not come at all.
Brightline asked for 200 spaces, right?
Right.
Brightline asked for 200 spaces, there's 160 spaces there.
Right.
We're 40 deficient already.
No, it would, at the end, if Brightline and builds the 200 spaces, instead of there being 160 there, there'll be 200 there.
They were adding a second level on part of it.
So there'll be, and there won't be 160 there, there'll be 200.
Parking garage.
No, it's a level.
Again, we're guessing and speculating because we're not part of that anymore, so I don't know what they're doing, but.
Well, they don't have a plan.
Yeah.
There isn't an approved plan.
But that's, and this is frustrating for me because I've had to ask for this twice, and then today, there are no documents
But
in here to even, for me to have looked at, to even.
I can give you the code, and it's 403.
Right, like, what I asked you last time is how many spots are needed by the courthouse, and we still don't know.
If the courthouse was building today, it'd be 403 spaces,
Correct.
but they're
So,
not.
but even in 1986 then, what was it then? How many spaces did they need? Right, you can't just say,
the only-
whatever you can
yeah.
park on 2 acres is what you need. That doesn't work anywhere else.
That's what they did back in 1988. The city said, take this gazebo park, and make it not a parking lot. And then they did a resolution
This is a mess.
reducing 65
You
spaces.
can't just say that because they're doing a Brightline station there, they don't have to park themselves at all.
I'm not.
Because Brightline needs 200 spaces.
Forgetting
Brightline
everything
for
else.
its RFP, for its service needs 200.
So I understand what you're
So
trying to
where-
say.
Where are
but
even those
that's-
160
But
spaces
that's
going to
not
be?
pursuant to our code. Our code says Brightline needs 8 spaces.
I'm not talking about Brightline. See, this happened in the last meeting too. It's like it's being made intentionally confusing.
It's not. You
What-
want it to be
what is-
an answer that I
What
can't
is
give you.
required by the code in 1986 and today, you said 400 today, what was it in 1986? If we don't have it today, let's go look it up.
I wasn't here.
That should have been
We
prepared.
didn't
We should
have,
have
we
been able
don't
to
have a
have that
recording
kind of
of
a
it.
conversation. There has to be.
I can go get you 33, I'll go get it while you guys are doing the next agenda item, and I'll print Resolution 33-88, where they reduced 65 parking spaces.
Correct, from what requirement? That's,
I didn't, I
that is
wasn't
the
The
question.
city struck a deal to get
Yeah.
green space.
Right, and that
We
was
struck a
whatever it
deal.
was.
You're now making it confusing too. How many spaces does the courthouse need to be able to park
What was the
itself?
deal?
You can't just put a Brightline station on top of your required parking and be like, it's FEC, so we have no authority here.
They're gonna do
If you're gonna push all of your parking for your courthouse onto everybody else, we have a problem.
I don't disagree with you, and that's why the appropriate time to address it
Is now
when
before
that
they get a
happens.
grant, and then especially once that application comes through, but we need to have an idea of what that looks like before that happens.
Come through us,
But
Yeah, there'll be an application that will come through.
not through us.
not through us.
For that site, there's no, you're saying.
Not, the
Because it's
day they
council
rent
site.
that space
We took
to
ourselves out of
the
it.
train, that 2
we
acres
need to-
becomes the FRA corridor
Then we
and
figure
becomes
this-
FRA
then we need to figure
jurisdiction.
this out now.
Well, I can tell you right now, the courthouse does not have sufficient parking.
Then we need to figure this out with the county.
So you can tell that, you could say the courthouse isn't allowed to operate there because they don't have enough
You're
parking.
not allowed to put a Brightline station on top of your
Well,
parking.
the courthouse's response is going to be, in 1988, you told us we needed to put 160
Again,
spaces on
I don't have
this
those
spot.
documents in front of
I
me.
understand.
So this is taking Mike's word for it based on what
It's
you
not,
could find.
it's not my word
This
either.
is,
I
there's
don't know,
no
I'm
documents
guessing.
in the folder.
I'm guessing. I don't have the answer.
There's no data to sit here and like try to hold on to.
So the data's 403.
It's
The
your
403
pitch of how this
is absolute. That's what Jody did the math on it based upon the square footage. They do not have 403 spaces. They have 160, and then they also have 125 in the triangle space, and then they also have, I think, 50 in that other space. So they have 175 plus 160.
So they're already grossly parking deficient, or at least we'll say parking
They're about
deficient, and now they
65
want to put
short.
a station on top of their parking lot.
They're about 65 spaces
This is a
short.
problem. This is a problem, because you're going to put all of your required parking out onto the on-street parking in surrounding areas. This is a problem. It's not just meeting Brightline's requirement, which they don't have enough spaces for. It's how do you meet your own parking requirement? And what does the city do to rectify this so that they don't make a mess in the city?
But they
For
could-
your residents, for the people who live here and their ability to park.
They could pave Gazebo Park.
This is turning into a we already have an agreement on that.
No, the agreement on that was that they were forgiven 65
To
parking
be able to
spaces.
park, to be able to park their
courthouse.
project. Now they want to do something new. They're breaching
That's
that
a-
deal.
right, that's a new project.
They're breaching that deal then.
But the new project.
They are, but they're not meeting their parking
But the new
requirements. Why is
project's
this
parking
difficult?
requirement is not 200. The new project's
Brightline's-
parking requirement under our code is either 33.
Brightline's
or 8.
RFP requires 200 spots there.
That's a contract for an offer of a purchase. That's like saying, I'll pay you $1 million for a piece of property or 500,000. Our code doesn't require it. That was just what they were doing to
But the problem is those
incentivize
200
it.
spots are for their required parking.
That's what they wanted.
They're giving
Right.
Brightline 200 spaces on a lot that they need for their required parking.
Again, I don't disagree with you one bit that that's what the documents
Correct.
appear to say. But our code, if we were going to code enforce them, would say, we'd say, wait a
Sending them a
second,
letter.
you can't.
We need to figure out exactly what this is, and we need to be sending them a letter saying, I hope you're not intending on putting a Brightline station on your required parking for the courthouse.
And they would say, we're not, because we only need 160 spaces, and we're building 200, so the extra 40 are more than Brightline
No,
needs.
this is, why is
Per
this so
code, because that's per code, that's what the code says.
You are already parking deficient on the site.
Right.
Brightline's going to have an RFP with you that if it looks anything like the last one did, you need 200 spots for Brightline.
Not per code.
No, not
Brightline
per
wanted a
code.
parking garage because they also wanted to build transit-oriented development on the
Okay.
triangle space across the
My
street.
chiropractic office.
Right.
Right, my office has parking requirements. Any office, I
Right.
don't want to use me, any business has a parking requirement.
Right.
If I said, I'm going to lease my parking lot to Ricky's Hot Dog Stand
We'd say no.
because I'm pushing my parking out to on
If your parking requirement was 160 spaces,
whatever it
and
is.
Ricky's Hot Dog Stand was going to build 40
And if I was
more,
already parking deficient,
but if
they're
you-
not building 40 more because they need, oh my God.
that's the 40 more is the problem.
Brightline needs 200 spots for its project. Yes, that's what the RFP says.
That's what they
200
wanted.
for their site.
They wanted a 4-story apartment building too.
Basically, if you're not county, if you're not going to build a parking garage or some kind of way to fit your parking and Brightline's parking on that spot, we have a problem.
I
Because
understand
that
what you're
means
saying.
your parking is going to be pushed out onto On-Street onto the city.
But then we have to go to our code, and I have to say in my letter to them,
This is the parking
pursuant to city code,
Correct.
you're building an 8,000 square foot building, but I'm rounding it up to 10,000 square feet. And a 10,000 square foot building needs 33 spaces.
No, I'm not talking about Brightline, I'm talking about the courthouse.
Their courthouse already has 160 spaces.
They're already deficient.
And so, right, so let's.
They're
say-
already deficient in their parking.
Right, but let's say they didn't build it on that spot.
So now where are the
Down the
160, Mike?
Let's say they built the parking, Brightline and everything down the street, and they built 40 spaces for Brightline. That would meet our code.
That's fine. That's not what
And
they're
it had
doing.
nothing to do with the 2 acres.
That's not what's happening. That's a
But they're
hypothetical. That's not
building
happening.
40 extra spaces as part of the.
In a lot that's already deficient of parking. Yes, you can't roll your eyes.
I
It's
know,
the
but
truth.
I don't disagree that it's less parking than our code requires.
Then we have a problem.
But it's
We
not
have
less
a problem.
parking than we required them to do. We required them to do
Which
that.
I need to be able to verify with documents. I have no idea.
I'll get you, it's resolution
I want 3388.
3388.
I want what the parking requirements were in 86. I want what they are now. I want everything related to that. And it's not about Brightline. It's about the courthouse.
Well, and so
The
our
courthouse
remedy,
has to park.
so, and again, recognize that Brightline and Courthouse are separate. They're different entities. If the courthouse doesn't meet its parking, our remedy is to tell the county, your courthouse is in violation of our code.
At least you
and
can't build anything
meet
else.
its parking.
You at least cannot build more on it.
They're not building more on it.
They
They're
can.
putting the
They
parking
want to build a parking
for another
garage.
project. They're not building a garage. They're putting the parking for another project on top of their existing parking lot. So they will be no longer able to park their project on their site.
But taking the courthouse out of it and using SunTrust Bank, if SunTrust Bank needed 100 parking spaces and they wanted to build a little out parcel office of 10,000 square feet, we'd say, okay, but under our code, to build that 10,000 square foot office, you need to have at least 34 more spaces. So if instead of their 100 spaces, they then built 140 spaces.
Correct.
SunTrust Bank could then build that 10,000 square foot office.
Correct.
Our deal with the county was, they needed 160 in that 2-acre parcel, and now they're
we
going to
don't
come
know.
back and say, we're going to build 200 in this parcel for an 8,000 square foot building, and 8,000 at 300 square foot is actually only 24
You're doing that,
spaces.
I don't want to keep arguing with you.
I know, because it's going to go back and forth, because it's all hypothetical. None of it is actually real, because they didn't submit a design, they didn't submit a plan, they didn't usurp any parking, they haven't
They
taken
have
it away that they already
They have
had.
signaled that they plan on doing this, so I think that's sufficient enough to start looking at this and potentially sending them a letter.
Well, so I'll send them any letter you want, regardless of what this is. We can send them anything you guys want.
I want to look at it. I think it's warranted if you're going to create a huge traffic and parking issue by letting them park the 200 required spaces for Brightline on that site.
But the 200 spaces is not required. Brightline will not use 200 spaces.
Doesn't matter, for their RFP, they want those.
They
200
asked for
spaces.
it. They wanted it because they wanted it to be built for them.
That's not
Correct.
our
They wanted-
code.
right.
That's their request.
But that means that, again, I'm beating this to death, on that site, you're not able to park your 160 because it is now Brightline parking. Is this difficult? Like, is this confusing?
Well, what you want to say is that no matter
It's what it
how many
is.
spaces get built there, let's say 1,000 spaces get built there, you're saying all 1,000 now apply to Brightline.
No. If you can build on that site, whatever you're required, I don't want to say it's 160 because I don't know yet, but if you can put your required parking on that site,
Whatever
Plus
was
Brightline's
there
required
is a
parking.
finite number that's already there,
plus
right?
Brightline's parking for their RFP, then we're good.
Right.
But otherwise, you're pushing out onto the on-street
If they don't.
and impacting the rest of the
Right.
residents.
And if they don't build Brightline and it doesn't go forward, they're 65 spaces short,
Correct.
and they're pushing that out onto the street right now.
That, we already have an agreement and a deal.
Right.
Now, if you go to compound that deal and make a new deal,
So
you've made yourself efficient.
Any expansion, they need to provide adequate parking for whatever that might be.
On that site.
Right, anywhere, doesn't matter where.
Correct.
Whatever you build, you have to
They
build
want
the
to put a
parking for.
garage or whatever.
So if you want to build a 10,000 square foot building, you have to build 33 parking spaces.
No, you're doing it again. You're going right back to
I'm
that.
following the code.
That's
No.
what code is.
No, the RFP that requires the 200 spaces.
I'm going to let Commissioner Clark
Okay.
ask some questions.
Okay. Thank you. I know that I always speak French or German or something, but I'm going back to the.
You were Italian earlier.
Yeah, earlier, yeah. I'm going back to the zip thing. If I'm not mistaken, and maybe Mr. Baggett can help me, but when we discussed the entire zip process, and we talked about parking, I thought that there was some talk, it might not just be zip, it could have been another project. We're not going to follow the ITE standards. We don't need the ITE standards. What standards are we using? And when we ask people to calculate parking and to give us numbers, what are we using? And did we ever abolish the entire ITE standards for the city of Stuart based on what's in our comprehensive plan? Or was it just for that time period when we were looking at either something with the zip or whatever that project was? But I distinctly remember, I think it was our vice mayor who said, we're not going to follow the IT and we're not going to use that as a calculation. So what are we doing and what are we following and what are our standards? And these are probably rhetorical questions. You don't have to answer them, but I'm putting them out there. The other thing with this entire parking is, why is it that if Brightline, I know that we're supposedly not working with the county, I'm not sure why, but if Brightline is coming in or if the county is coming in, why is it that we can't work with them to do, if they have to go up and still do that parking garage? I know that this is trying to find every way not to do it, but there's an entitlement, I believe, that people can go up if we work with them and agree with them. There's ride sharing that's going to happen to offset some parking needs. There's other things that can happen. We've seen the benefit of restriping streets and doing all kinds of stuff. There's lots of spaces in Stipman Street and other things in that area that can create an additional 30 or 40 or whatever spaces if we ever have to redo that. I'm not sure why we're digging into this thing and trying to find every single way possible not to have these numbers work out to create something on that site, and maybe it's because if that doesn't happen, then obviously maybe Brightline can't happen, and maybe that's what it is. But I really want to know and want to hear for sure if we said that we didn't want to follow the ITE rules when we were counting the number of parking spaces for homes, single-family homes or multi-family homes in East Stuart. What kind of standards are we using, and why are we asking for numbers on using a standard to create a number of parking spaces needed for the square footage? And are we asking essential service for our city, our community, our county seat to say, oh, you're not meeting the requirements, maybe you need to move out of downtown Stuart. It pains me. It pains me what's happening with regard to 40, 60, or even 160 parking spaces, why we're going down this path. And I know that there are other avenues. The CRA has worked hard to resolve parking issues. There are all kinds of ways to prove that we can have sufficient parking in and around our downtown area. And I think that when those issues come up, then we can work with them and hopefully work with the county at that time. And it just pains me. Thank you.
And I understand what you're saying, but I think rather than wait till when it happens and then we deal with it, we need to address it now. Not wait until it's actually there and they're looking to put the spaces in and we're saying, well, wait a minute, you're pushing now parking for the people in the courthouse, the people that live in the area, the people who come to shop or go to work or whatever. You're pushing those people out of their parking spaces.
That's because we're believing in this ground parking and not allowing a real parking garage to go up if the county ever comes up with the money. We need to find decent resolutions that we can provide controls for. And if it's a parking garage, it can happen. I'm not sure why we're not saying that we can't have that in our downtown area and by our courthouse if it needs to happen and work with. The idea of everything must be in flat parking and nothing can happen elsewhere, that's not a sufficient way to look at it. There needs to be other things to look at and work with. And I hope that we haven't burned all our bridges with the county on working together on this thing. But obviously, if the goal is to not support the idea of having the transit system there, then maybe this kind of continuation will go on, but
Just park your project, be able to park it.
So then,
I don't believe that we're the ones who pulled the parking garage.
If the county wants to build a garage, they can build a garage and have sufficient.
okay, so let them
The parking
propose that.
garage was never the issue. It was 200 parking spaces that was what Brightline wanted. And so when the city and the county responded to the RFP, when we entered into the interlocal agreement, out of hesitation, we were concerned that they were going to start wanting to do the transit-oriented development. And so we put in the interlocal agreement that we would only provide sufficient parking to meet the needs of the RFP. Because if they added on later that they wanted this 4-story building, we didn't want them to want a 4-story parking garage building 600 parking spaces in order to park other apartments. But as we were going through it, we determined that you could put 200 parking spaces on the surface without building a structure, and we could save some of the oak trees. So when the whole discussion and Brightline started pulling the garage out of the thing, the city, when I was negotiating with Don on it, I wasn't planning to just give them the extra money from the parking garage. We had it set up that a consultant was going to be reviewing the contract work and only providing them the money necessary to build the station and the connecting tracks. And it was going to cost less to not build the parking garage and to have surface parking with oak trees instead. Yes, it was going to be 200 parking spaces, not because of a code requirement, but because of Brightline's request to over-park the site. But if you build a Outback Steakhouse, for example, Outback Steakhouse always over-parks and builds way more parking spaces than our code requires. But that doesn't mean we can tell Carrabba's or the one next door that they have to do one way or the other. Those extra spaces are optional. That was their choice to build those. Our code only requires the floor, and we do have some ceilings too. We have code requirements that you can't build in certain areas over a certain amount. But in this instance, the hypothetical would be, if in fact Brightline required 200 spaces, the vice mayor would be absolutely right. The courthouse would not be able to provide both, and therefore they would be illegally sharing parking that wasn't authorized to be shared. But when you review the code for the 10,000 square foot building, that's really 8, but I don't know what they're going to build, or treat it as a train station and look at the code for a train station parking, they're overbuilding surplus parking that allows that square footage.
If you treat the entire parking lot as a train station, then now you've also at the same time replaced the parking lot for the courthouse. You still have the same issue. Even if you want to make it,
doesn't allow
even
us
if you want to make it,
require that.
we are requiring it of the courthouse, not of Brightline.
But they're adding the spaces that they're required to. Brightline will
Even
be
if you want to
adding
do
that
this,
number of spaces.
even if you want to do this funny math with it just being required for 30,
but
the problem
not
is
funny,
the
that's
the entire parcel is going to be Brightline parking. None of it is going to
This
be
entire
courthouse.
parcel.
Except for know
is
that all of the
available-
parking is going to be open to the public.
It's open to the public now.
Yeah,
It's, the entire parcel
pay.
is going to be paid
it's going to be
Brightline parking.
shared parking.
It's going to be paid parking for anybody willing to pay it.
It's
Or
public
Brightline.
parking.
For Bright-
It will remain public parking.
Right.
It becomes Brightline's parking lot for Brightline.
Well,
Who would be collecting the fees for that parking?
It is not,
Again,
it is
that-
no longer the
that
court,
part doesn't matter
it's no longer the
because our code doesn't judge pay or not pay.
All right,
So if you're going to the courthouse and you want to pay $20 to park,
you can
you're
come
free
right
to
up
put a
here.
line in that parking lot and pay that $20 and park at the courthouse.
Yep.
Obviously, that's not realistic, but it's still not, I mean, that is what it is. And that, our code doesn't say paid parking doesn't count.
There's paid parking now
Right here
behind
downtown.
Jamie
Yeah,
Rugg.
yeah.
You're already deficient on that site.
It's part-
Agreed.
We should all be on the same page of making sure that people, residents are able to park. This shouldn't be a pro or anti-Brightline thing. If we are allowing this to take place where all of the courthouse parking will be pushed out onto On-Street, when everybody gets there early in the morning, there's not going to be anywhere for people to park.
This is a
We
This is a huge problem.
Which is
What-
why,
what would you like?
Which is why I wanted to make it all 3-hour parking, so that couldn't happen. That was why I was
But
suggesting
then
to
there was
striping
also
it, and that,
discussion about giving the courthouse people special stickers, and they're still going to be in those spots.
well, not if you don't give them to them.
But that was the next step for the discussion, so that this is a problem. I want to look at what is required of the courthouse, and then,
403.
okay, and so we need to be communicating with the county. Maybe today is not the day because we're not all here, but we need to be talking about corresponding with the county so that they understand that this is not okay. You can't do this. To your point, it's illegal to push your parking out onto the rest of the citizens on the on-street parking.
I understand what logic you're
It's the
coming
truth.
up with.
It's not
Well,
logical
you're
argument.
you're extrapolating that the 200 requested by Brightline somehow became code.
No, I didn't say code.
But what if Brightline only requested 4?
Then that's a totally different situation, but that's not what the case is.
Well, so if Brightline changes their mind and only requests
We're in a
33,
totally different situation.
don't you think that's what they'll do?
Let's see.
Because that'll solve it.
And they use the parking anyway because it's public parking.
But that's not going to be the case because they want the money from the parking. They want
Right,
every
but
one
they're
of those parking spots to put
Yeah,
them
but they're going to, the courthouse is still going to build 200 parking spaces. Brightline's just going to say, we only want 12.
No, they want
And-
that money for that.
Well, between the courthouse and Brightline, they can have a private agreement and rent all of their spaces. They could even rent the triangular spaces next to Sailfish Park and charge people to park in those. They could put meters up and charge 25 cents for 15 minutes on all those parking
So I
spaces.
think it's clear what kind of information I
This
would
is
like
county
to
property.
see.
Right.
And I'm sure you can help me
I
find
mean,
that.
what we can give you is the
City.
current code that shows the
And
403
once I take a
spaces.
look, we can
And then-
I'll bring it
right,
back.
And then,
Thank you.
I can't pull resolution 33-88. Okay, you're printing now?
It's too old.
Can I get it?
Yeah, you want me
Okay, yeah, can you, the clerk's printed 3388. So
Can we
she'll bring
move
it.
on?
Yep, I'm good.
Anybody that had submitted plans in the past and
Correct.
doing notices to the, residents and whoever else put it on the website, and I'm not worried about the notice side of it. The question is, what is the actual
Format?
meeting? What is the purpose of it? Is it a meeting, or is it a charrette, or is it a workshop, or is it just a information gathering? Is it, so,
It didn't print.
I couldn't do it
It says it
either.
won't work for my laptop here.
so I'll read it. Yeah, it says.
One page?
Yeah.
Back to 6.
It says, Martin County has applied to the city of Stuart for a waiver of 65 parking spaces in front of the proposed new courthouse facilities in order to preserve the existing courthouse facility. Whereas the existing courthouse facility is determined to have significant value. Whereas it is determined that the saving of the existing courthouse would be in the public interest and would enhance the downtown area. Whereas the saving of the existing courthouse will require the elimination of 65 parking spaces and a waiver by the city of said spaces from the original courthouse plans. Now therefore, the city
original courthouse
commission
plans.
of Stuart hereby waives 65 parking spaces. They built the original plans and they built the spaces. So the 65 spaces is what they're short.
That plus the code from that time will give us what needs to be on that site. It's not a throw your hands up.
Right,
It's
but
a-
I'm saying, okay, but I'll guarantee you that they're 65 short.
Of course.
So
I'm not fighting
are we
over the
going to
60
tell them that they have to produce it? 'Cause
I'm
if-
not fighting over the 65 short.
So now, if you're not fighting over the 65 short, if they've built sufficient parking, now they have sufficient parking. But if they wanted to add another 10,000 square feet to the courthouse, to the state attorney's office in the courthouse, they'd have to build 33 more spaces. And if they built the 33 more spaces, they'd be allowed to build the 10,000 square foot addition to the state attorney's
I
office.
don't know because I don't know what their numbers are. And if they did that, they would have to
Well,
come in.
I'm
at
using our
400.
code for that.
They'd have to come in at 400 minus 65 and then add on 33. 160 spots isn't going to do it. They'd have to restripe that whole thing to
If you
get
guys,
300.
if the city already said the building that's there
350
is
spots.
entitled to exactly the number of spaces that it
Nobody
has,
said that. Who said that?
We did.
that resolution said
That's not
that,
what I heard. I heard we're going to relieve them of 65 spots.
Right, which was what it was.
Which is related to the parcel. It has nothing to do with their required parking on that site. We're talking about a separate issue. We're talking about, we're going to not let that gazebo be a parking lot, and we're going to have that be equivalent to 65 spots. So don't worry about those 65. We're not going to hold it against you. It has nothing to do with what's required for the building there otherwise. That's a totally separate agreement about the gazebo parcel. That
totally
has
agree.
nothing to do with required parking.
But
I
if
wanna know
the
what your required
courthouse
parking
wanted
is.
to add a 10,000 square foot addition to the state attorney's office as part of the courthouse,
Yes.
nothing to do with trains, nothing else.
Yep.
Are you saying we would require them to meet code for the 10,000 square feet, and we would say, nope, you also have to build the 65 parking spaces that were supposed to be in Gazebo Park?
Nobody's talking about Gazebo Park. I just said
So
I'm
you
not
wouldn't-
talking about Gazebo
So
Park.
that 65 wouldn't be in it?
I'm not talking about Gazebo Park.
All
I'm talking
you'd
about the other one.
All you'd be talking about is the 10,000 square foot building that they were adding onto the courthouse for the state attorney.
No.
If
You're
they,
trying to pigeon me into that one. What I'm talking about is what is the required parking for that's for that courthouse? And then 6 for that site.
and I'm guessing it's not 403, I'm guessing it's lower than that, but there's going to be 403 sites because there was no on-street parking on East Ocean, there was no on-street parking on Flagler, there was no on-street parking on Stitman back then, and we've since added to the code and said that the people whose ever businesses is gets credit for the on-street parking spaces that are in front of their property. So they're going to end up with about another probably 50 or 60 additional spaces because of Flagler
We need to
and,
figure all that out.
and East Ocean, which means they're going to be overparked again.
But then
And
now we're talking about 400 then, because we're going to go by these new changes and updates.
Well,
You're saying they need 400.
sure. I mean, I don't know if we're going to renege on the, if we're going to renege on the
I feel like
gazebo
we're
deal,
saying
they're
we're
going to
beating it
need
to death. We're
400.
diving into hyper-technical. The issue is if you displace all of your courthouse parking by letting it be Brightline parking, we have a problem.
But if it's, that's what I'm saying, but taking Brightline out of it, if it's state attorney office or public defender office.
It's not this, you can't, that's not apples and apples, because the entire lot
It's parking
is
needs.
being used for Brightline.
Parking needs.
It's code.
The entire lot is being used to park Brightline's RFP. It's not the same thing as adding 10,000 square feet and you need 30 spots. The entire lot. It would be like if the Outback built a Burger King on its parking lot.
Right.
That's what it is.
It is, it'd be that.
It's just kind of confusing.
But then we calculate the parking for the Burger King, and we calculate the parking for the
And
Outback.
you gotta be able to park it.
Right, and they have 160 now, and the parking for the Burger King is 33.
No.
And they're gonna have
The
200.
parking is 200. You need the entire parcel for parking for Brightline.
That's the part where it fails. We
No, there
don't
was
have
no
a rule
allowance
that
for
says
shared
that.
parking. That was the
We
whole
don't
idea.
have a rule that says Brightline requires 200 spaces. Right. That I don't have. That doesn't exist.
That was the RFP.
That's what Brightline wanted.
Right.
But it's not a code, it's not a parking
We
requirement.
should be prepared for what's gonna, when that comes through. That's what I'm saying.
Right. And we all know exactly what we're talking about here. I'm just saying that we don't have a code that distinguishes between paid and unpaid, or that requires someone to build parking lots or parking spaces because of a private
Okay.
lease.
So if in my office, I make my parking lot paid,
Right.
okay?
Right. There's nothing I can do.
And now I'm gonna charge people to park
$10 a space.
in my parking lot and push my parking to On Street instead of parking my project.
I know.
And then I'm gonna put Ricky's hot dog stand there.
I don't, well, no.
It can't be
You
allowed.
put Ricky's Hot Dog Stand, you have to build new spaces to meet whatever Ricky's Hot Dog Stand requirement is.
Correct, which is now, if my
But if you're-
entire parking lot is filled up with Ricky's hot dog stand.
Well, that paid parking, if your parking lot has 10 spaces in it, and your building needs 10 spaces.
Yes.
Then
You
10
won't
are
be able to
dedicated to
put-
you whether they're paid or not.
Correct,
Now, if Ricky's comes in,
yes,
and he needs 10 spaces.
yes.
You're gonna need 20 spaces in your parking lot for
Correct.
Ricky's and you. And if you build it, you're good to go.
But they can't build it.
Right, that's what he's saying.
But they can.
They need 200.
But they can build it. They
Brightline
need-
needs 200.
Not under the
No,
code.
they don't.
they
don't
don't.
need 200. That's the part that doesn't exist. There is nothing anywhere that says a 10,000
So
square
it's just
foot
a
building.
giant shared parking arrangement.
No,
That's the point
it's
you're making.
not shared.
If they're telling you they need 200 and there's 160 there,
The code doesn't tell them that.
They're not, you're making me extrapolate the
the
200.
entire parcel you're saying is a Brightline project.
No.
Discussion. Can we, all right, let's continue discussion another time.
We need to move on.
Right, can we
Okay.
agree to at least be prepared?
Could I ask you, because you've said 2 times before, Mr. Martel has not provided you with the documents. Could you please meet with Mr. Martel,
prior to the meeting and make sure.
It should have been in our packet if we're going to discuss
Okay,
it.
but
I don't
you
have
know
the documents.
specifically what you want. Could you just make sure that he
I
provides it
did,
to you?
I verbalized that at the meeting.
Okay, well, then you need to say it
You
to him
wanted the
again.
calculation of how many spaces were needed at the courthouse. I had Jody do.
400, but that wasn't in my
400.
packet. I got nothing in my packet to look at and reference and hold
We count,
accountability.
we
He
literally,
keeps saying the same thing and you keep saying the
but we
same thing.
don't have an order
We're not
that says
progressing.
403. We don't have that. That document doesn't exist. We literally went out and pulled up the property appraiser's office and said, how many square feet is this building? And then applied its square footage to our code.
Right.
That's what we did, but we don't have an application.
So if
This was
somebody's
just on us.
So if
There
somebody's
is no
going to come in
document.
with their project,
Right,
update it, they're going to have to meet those parking requirements.
right, absolutely.
Right, you're right. Okay.
And there's unequivocal.
Or don't put a bright line station on top of your parking lot.
The
Or meet
question is,
400
Okay,
what
we got
are
it.
the
We
parking
got it.
requirements? That's the.
That's right. They will be required to meet all the parking requirements. They will.
That's what I asked for.
Okay. Well then, I don't know.
The parking requirements are either 33 or 8.
Right, so let's move on.
This is
Let's
jujitsu.
move on. Next item, the public workshops.
So,
We start with maybe a minimum number?
well,
3?
well, you probably want to start with 1.
One.
And the question is, there was some discussion about a moderator, there was a discussion about having, so.
Can we
in
not
the-
spend money on that?
Well,
Can we just?
so in the past, the city, when the issue came up, actually hired a planner to do a design based upon what the commission envisioned. And that is what started it. And then people came in and started talking about, okay, well, I'd like to see bigger trees there. I'd like it to be further back with more green space, or I'd like to see a marina out back, or I'd like to see the street go through. If we're having a blank slate and it's just wide open,
No.
then, because the city did that too. And what the city did in that case is when Max Stuckey sent that email to the Dave Collier, the city commission just said, okay.
Can we present
go
the
out to RFP.
existing ideas and plans and sort of have, if anybody's available to review them or discuss them? Instead of starting.
I'd like to have a moderator.
I would like to have a moderator.
Well,
I mean, look what happened in East Stewart, was people, commissioners ended up yelling at the people. There should be a meeting where the commissioners aren't even there, because, we affect the dynamic. If you really want to hear from the public, hear from the public. Yeah, it's going to take a little bit of money. I mean, but we're talking about probably one of the most significant developments that the city's going to make here. And boy, we need to get this right. Because it can be a marvelous resource for the city and
yeah.
people. So maybe we should talk to people who do provide moderation for these things. If you talk to
we have
Ms. Moser.
Could we have staff? Or somebody from
No.
staff?
No.
Staff, staff needs direction from the commission as to what they want. Do you want staff to
Yes.
design a hotel with a conference center, or do you want staff
There's
to?
existing designs that
I
are
know,
there
but
for a starting
nobody's
point.
adopted them.
But for a starting point, to even give reference, and then people can
Right.
say,
But like, for example.
absolutely not, or
no-
that's interesting, we can.
No offense to the existing designs, but the one that that had the amphitheater in it that was in the mangroves that violated the Shoreline Protection Act. Yeah, I mean, it had like some serious
Okay,
problems. in it
But
that-
wasn't
As
that
a
a
starting-
moderator that we paid for to create that?
No,
I think he did that on his
no,
own.
that was through Stuart Main Street. That had
Oh,
nothing to do
okay.
with us.
Maybe Main Street would be open to hosting some.
I'd be happy to.
Main Street, the BDB, some of these community
Not
groups.
the BDB.
Right.
That's okay, they're people too.
And Main Street has a vested interest in it because it's downtown, and Main Street's mission is Main Street. So it may be, now, they're not going to have any money to hire or do a person that, I don't know who their board members are, if there's anybody
Yeah,
qualified on it.
Inez.
Right.
I don't want to volunteer.
Right.
You know.
But I'm happy to reach out to.
I think it might be
Candace.
worth exploring, so
Right.
you don't have to spend money.
I agree with that, I prefer.
Okay.
You're heading in the wrong direction there if you don't want to. I remember when they did Indian Riverside Park, which is a huge success and has accomplished so much and is such a resource. I mean, there were a number of charrettes for that, and It was not Doug's, it was not Commissioner Smith, it was not the commissioners, it was people who do this professionally and know how to get, the problem we have is we all have our point of view, and we end up imposing that. And that doesn't work. That's
I think
not,
though, if like Candace hosted, at least for the first one,
Candace, I don't think Candace has the ability to do that.
Maybe
And
she's
that's
not
not a strike on her.
maybe she's not interested, but maybe they would be looking forward to doing something like that as our first one. And then if we're like, this is not worth it, went nowhere.
And by the way, I'm
Let's
happy to
start
reach
spending
out
some
to
money.
them between now and
Yeah,
August.
why don't we
11th
reach
and
out to
ask
them? Why don't we
that's-
reach out to the CRB?
Yeah, there's Tim Kinane, maybe he might want to volunteer, I don't know.
Yeah.
Anybody who was
volunteer.
involved in previous.
It's a very different era.
But so for now, I mean,
Let's reach
I'm
out
gonna
to Main Street, that's.
I'll
aren't you
reach
on
out to
your board?
Main Street and
That up. See
Jan
what they're-
Hudson, I don't know.
Let's have
Somebody.
let's have the CRB have a discussion. Would you have
No, the CRB.
at least one professional on there, if not more?
This is a starting point, start
Right.
moving and grooving a little bit.
But
With
it's
agreement,
gonna cost a
you're
little bit of
hopeful.
money, and that's. it's-
You're hopeful. Okay, thank you. Is that it for number, can we go to number
That's enough to give you
8?
till August 11th, and then I'll tell you
Thank
guys. But by the way, that's okay. I'd rather do it this way and slowly and piecemeal
Yeah.
it and get it right rather
And
than
by the way,
jump in
then
and do it
people
wrong.
hear us talking, and people have come up to me and said, I hope you do this, I hope you do that.
And to your point, I hope if Main Street did that, we would have very little input.
Yes.
I would like to just be a
Because
fly on the wall.
we have the ultimate input.
Right.
We don't need to listen to each other until we get to the final meeting.
Discussion and
The
deliberation.
last two meetings it'll be. Okay. Item 8,
This one's mine, and this is on the 2-acre parcel.
yes.
On US 1 adjacent to Haney Creek. At the last city commission meeting, you guys had requested us to bring back this issue again. In the prior city commission, there was discussion about creating a trailhead on that 2-acre parcel in a park, a passive park, and can it be done? So if you recall, the city manager gave you a history of the parcel. He sent an email out, and he also discussed it last meeting. I looked into it. He asked me to look into the legal documents, which I did. I've attached 2 legal documents to the agenda item. I'd like to go over a couple of them with you. The first would be the interlocal agreement with the county. As a background for folks here, we entered it, we joined with the county and purchased the land for what is now Haney Creek. And we entered into an interlocal agreement, and in part, we agreed with the county that we would carve out a 1.97 acre, i.e. the 2-acre parcel we're discussing, which is on US 1. And if you'll see on the fund, it's called a funding agreement, not an interlocal agreement, but it is an interlocal agreement. And the fourth whereas clause says, and just to even go further, before I go into the whereas clause, this was dated June 14th, 2011, so 14 years ago is when this interlocal agreement was entered into between the city and the county in regarding to the joint efforts to purchase what is now Haney Creek and to maintain it. So our fourth whereas clause says the city has determined, subject to referendum, that it will use 2 acres, more or less, located adjacent to US 1, the carve-out parcel, of the 51.4 acres for a commercial purposes in order to generate revenue for the improvement, maintenance, and management of the remainder of Haney Creek parcel and adjoining conservation lands. And there's a lot of other stuff in this agreement. I'm just not going through all of it. I'm just addressing the parts that are relevant to this 2-acre parcel. In Section 8.3, the city agrees that any and all revenue other than taxes received by the city from sale, lease, or otherwise from the carve-out parcel shall be perpetually and exclusively used for the improvement, use, management, and operation of the site and adjoining conservation parcels. All such improvement, maintenance, and operation shall comply with Martin County Ordinance 711. In the event the revenue exceeds the expenses for the improvement, use, management, and operation of the site, then the expenditure of any such surplus revenue shall be subject to the prior agreement of the city and county, which agreement shall not be unreasonably withheld or denied. I'd like to point out that this clause this section talks about revenue that is generated from that commercial parcel. But it doesn't mandate that we have revenue from the parcel, and I assume for the last 14 years, we haven't had any revenue.
Right.
The county hasn't called us on it, and we've paid for it with other funds, basically. And it's also my understanding over the last 14 years, that we have made multiple efforts to try and develop with different commercial projects, which to no avail. And then section 8.4 does discuss that the city shall annually provide the county with an accounting of all revenues received from the carve-out parcel and the use of those revenues. Obviously, we haven't had any revenue to report to them. And then it mentions the interlocal agreement, that it's subject to the referendum. So we did do a referendum, went out in a general election on other issues, and that was also in 2011. And a significant number of the residents voted in favor of this language, and it is titled Long-Term Lease of City-Owned Commercial Lot Adjoining City Property Fronting Tidally Influenced Waters. And it said, shall the city lease long-term the 1.97 acre commercial lot fronting North US 1 opposite North River Shores Boulevard, the proceeds from which shall provide long-term maintenance of the adjoining 165 acre Haney Creek Preserve and other expenditures agreed upon by the city and Martin County. Yes for approval, no for rejection. And I attached the election results, and it looks like 76.5% of the population who voted on that were in favor of us using that property for commercial purposes to generate revenue. And I want to point out that it's my opinion, since this went out for referendum, that if you wanted to use it as a passive park and or a trailhead, that we would need to return it via referendum, return it to the population for a vote on it. I don't think the board has power to do it.
What about putting it in conservation? Same thing?
Yeah, because, I mean, it's shall. I sent out an email also distinguishing may and shall, and so the language of the referendum is shall that we have. And I'm not saying we haven't done it. We've tried. We just haven't been successful in bringing forth a valid
I'm
approved
surprised no
commercial.
one's held their feet to the fire.
When it says...
Well, the county would be
Failure to
holding,
perform.
the county would be holding our feet to the fire, but if we've been maintaining the park,
When it says more or less, is that just like a general legal term, or does it mean you could use less of the property for that?
Well, it was because we didn't have a specific survey. It's always the plus or minus when you look on the survey. It says it's 1.97 acres. Some people refer to it as 2 acres. It's whatever that parcel is. And since
More or less.
More or less.
Yeah, I got you.
Because it's like the subject is like, it doesn't want to be, couldn't be perfect on it.
Commissioner Giobbe?
it also,
Excuse myself for the rest of the evening.
Oh,
Okay.
Thank you for being a trooper and being...
yeah.
Your commitment is obvious, painfully obvious.
It does take a while to recover.
Thank you.
Do you need some help to get down this?
No, I'm good, thank
Okay.
you.
Do I care to walk with you?
Okay, any other?
Yeah, I had a couple.
Sure, go ahead.
Okay, so I was really happy to see this. I felt like this kind of all came together in this agenda item. When I talked to Merritt about, what to do with the half-cent sales tax, one of his major points was, if anything with that 2 acres, don't put a park on it, put it in conservation, right? And then, which would need the referendum,
But you could do that at any time.
when I don't know if you guys really dug into this, but when you look on
If you look in the,
these items in the back,
if you look at the digital pictures of it, those lines are in color and they actually show projected paths.
so these proposed, I know we don't have it up there, but in your packet,
Yeah.
this proposed exactly what I'm describing, but off of Baker on the north side of it.
Yeah, there's another entrance up there.
But it's not developed yet. It would
This
be.
is on the other side of the street.
So not this way going
Yeah,
into
right.
this part. Yeah.
No, there's already 2 entrances to the park.
No, if you look next to the Buttonwood, this was
On the north
proposed,
side.
it never happened. This is exactly what I'm describing without having to touch the 2 acres. If you put that 2 acres in conservation off of Baker, I don't know if you want to pull up a map. It's not this entrance here.
So
No, I know it's not that
this-
entrance
yes.
there.
the proposal is what was right next to Aaron's
Right.
Slough,
the nursery there on
perfect.
Baker.
It's
And
exactly
we
what
did
I'm
it in
describing.
2022 as a kind of a project to evaluate the idea of
With the ARPA
building
money,
and
right?
stuff.
We have to go to
That was what
referendum.
it was going to be.
Not for that.
You
No,
don't-
not for that, no.
Right.
Well, actually, I don't
I've never
know.
been opposed to that.
I didn't know that this existed.
I
That's why I'm
don't-
thrilled to see this. This is exactly what I want.
Will be sold out, so we can use it part. But
We
it
can
is,
use this to I mean, you were proposing to give up over 10 years, millions, literally millions of dollars. Take that money and turn this into one of the greatest parks in the city.
Yeah, so to, former Commissioner Matheson's point, put this in conservation.
No,
Don't make that commercial.
no.
That was his point with the
Oh, I don't think we should do that. I think we should make it.
commercial.
We're going to have to go to referendum, right?
middle of a
If we're
park.
now, turn it into income producing?
If we were to put that in conservation, that's what he said, that would be referendum. Yeah.
Yeah, we'd have to go to referendum.
deviate from the current
Right.
referendum.
And then you have on that north side of that parcel, you can trailhead it there instead of here, not get into the 750,000 or whatever we were
No,
talking
I
about.
want the money.
Phil.
I mean, you're cutting our budget. I want the money to maintain the park. No, that's too easy. There's 2 entrances to the park.
You can't really enter here, there's nowhere to park. This would be a trailhead though, here.
Fine,
There-
let's build,
Is there,
non-paved parking then.
I don't know that there's really anywhere to do that here.
Sure.
This side?
I mean, we could look into it. I have no idea. I didn't do any design to that.
But using some of that half-cent tax money to trailhead this and then have some trails through here is exactly what Volker was
By the
doing.
way, we can go down that path.
the
What I
purple
attached to
thing?
the agenda was a design that we looked into, and I thought I brought, did I include the money that they had projected at the time? I think it was about
Maybe.
500,000.
The last page.
Last
The
page.
last
It was about 500,000 at the time to do that, not including the trails.
Like trail.
And then on top of that, there was $85,000 in consulting necessary to get the permits from different state agencies. But then you also have to
Which would
design
connect to
and
the
build the trail.
entire side over here, and you would have
But-
parking for
But
that.
you'd have to design and build the trail too, so that's gonna have a cost associated with it, like, if you go to the last page.
But that's truly in
this-
line with the
right,
half-cent sales tax.
This doesn't have the trail construction, so you're looking at over $1 million. But again, I
But
don't
versus
disagree
the
with you.
10 that was
You
sort of
could-
thrown
you could-
around.
You could have a commercial property there and say you have to provide access to the trail.
The consistency is important for this, as a conservation area, I don't have a problem with it. I know that we need the money to help maintain that thing, and that was something, it's a huge area,
It's going to be
you know.
so valuable over the years to have as much green space there as you can. without the
Well,
other
it's a water cleansing area too, I mean,
Right, it goes way up north. It's expensive. You can't cut revenue and keep adding expenses.
And clearly, there's,
Government at its worst.
there is an issue with developing that property, right? You need this decel lane that's expensive, you need a ton of fill.
Costly.
It's cost prohibitive to even do this. Otherwise, it would have already happened. It's reasonable to just go ahead and put that in
we can just
conservation.
vote it into conservation,
Trailhead the top.
We need
or we have to go to referendum, okay.
Referendum. But that, I mean, we could talk more about it, but when would that kind of a language need to even be on a referendum?
Well, the next,
Next
rather
August,
than spending $25,000 or $30,000 for our own referendum,
this November.
we would do it.
Right.
And we no longer, we used to.
General
have these
election.
every year.
For a
We
26.
now only have them every other year, so you guys could call for a special election and we could. do
No,
it
no,
anytime.
for a 26
We have the
election.
general
To be
election.
honest with you, I'll give you the exact, but it might be March 30th, but it's like, it's right in that time frame. There's a.
So let's
Mary
say
does
hy-
like a back out thing for the.
Let's say
time.
hypothetically, this was not everybody's here, but let's say hypothetically, this was something we wanted to do. When should we get the ball
Okay,
rolling
you don't
on
need
conservation
anything.
for this?
You don't need anything to do.
Correct.
The top part, other than the commission to vote to do it.
Correct.
Or this part.
The.
It's the 2 acre parcel.
Just the 2 acres to put the 2 acres into conservation, you would need to adopt
Land use.
language for referendum, probably in January or February. But before that, and I don't think the county's going to give us much issue with it, you'd need to go back and amend the interlocal agreement with the county, because the county and and the city are joint owners of it. We're not, we chipped in money together and bought the last 53
Which
acres.
with the letter from Martin County Forever should be zero issue, right?
I don't, like I said to you, I don't expect that
It's
to
up
be
to
a
the
big
commission.
deal. But it would be the
Right.
county commission would have to vote on it, the city commission would have to vote on it.
They're not our biggest.
Which that would be, what kind of time frame?
If you want me to put it on August 11th, for you guys to do
Send it over, transmit it.
requesting that,
Do a letter to the county requesting that they allow you to do a referendum, I can do it August 11th. It's early, I mean, we don't need to do it August 11th. Well, actually, can't get it on August 11th because that'll be out tomorrow. The second meeting in August, I could get it on to do an agenda item if you want to request it from the county.
Can't be broached at the joint meeting, but I won't be at the joint meeting.
Well, we can't put it on the joint meeting anyway
Put it on
because
the
it'd be
agenda,
too
it's
late.
already set. It's
Do you
okay.
want him to start looking at that, or do you want to?
My-
I could bring it up at the next meeting.
Well, why don't I have the city attorney look into what's necessary to go back to the county, and then we'll put it on the second meeting in August as an agenda item. You guys can vote it up or down then, whether it's a letter, resolution, request, whatever it might
Apply
be.
lands for you money to improving either of those two entrances to the park. We don't need to put that in conservation.
We don't need to do anything.
Right.
That's, he's saying two separate issues.
So I don't want to give up the revenue. I don't want to keep burdening the taxpayer.
Well, that, we're not voting on that
I know.
tonight. Right.
I'll wait, I'll bring it up at the next one, 'cause you don't really know.
A consensus to bring to the discussion of what it is, like for what you discussed.
Okay. We did it.
We there?
Anything else?
That's it.
Not be excused to go to supper?
Seeing no other items for our discussion, deliberation. Meeting is adjourned.
All right.
Thank you.